All right, let's get this party started. Welcome to What Are the Odds with Barnes and Baris on one half, and Barnes will be here the second half very, very soon. Before he is, and by the way, apologize for the late start. I had to do Matt Gaetz. That'll air later tonight at 9 o'clock. Obviously, we'll get into it with the president sharing the peace poll that we did, the poll on the peace deal. That was a good interview, and you guys shouldn't miss it. If you do, I'll wind up trying to get it and throw it up on locals and run the clip. But usually I grab it from OAN and I just retweet it. But it's a good conversation, and you're not going to want to miss it. I think, is there some signal change? Look, I'm fresh back from Bedminster. I'll be honest with you. I thought I totally failed. I'm just being real. And everyone on locals knows. I mean, I basically drove home like somebody kicked my dog. But maybe this is some signal change. We'll see. I've been doing my best all day to try to get a clearer picture. But I think if it is, I will say this before I go through my spiel of support here and follow there. Last time when they did the peace deal, it was known that you had the vice president and others out there trying to negotiate a peace agreement with the Iranians. But a lot of this stuff was like leaking out, and it wasn't clear, or at least it wasn't made clear through the White House messaging and through other voices, that peace was the popular move. And it enabled the Israel First crowd and the neocons to put in, they got a lot of money to put in play their ops, their influence ops and their bot machines and everything. And they pushed back hard. And even after all of that pushback, this peace deal remained enormously popular. And as I said, in response to the White House post about the poll, one of the most interesting things about it to me, and I know that the White House had reviewed other polling as well, which was remarkably similar, almost identical, and not just the top line result, the trend on how it played out, especially over that week that Vance was selling it and they were pushing back. People didn't move from I support to I oppose. Like, nobody did. People moved from I support to I don't know, but oppose barely ticked up, barely at all. And anyone who left the support column went to I don't know, I'm unsure. And that is not exactly a ringing endorsement of the amount of money that Hasbara and the neocon, interest foreign agent op, which it is now. I mean, it's public information now, guys. I mean, it's not some kind of like anti-Semitic trope to point out what is public information. There is more money being spent on Hasbara in this country to get you to support what Israel wants you to support than the Republican Party is likely to spend this entire election cycle defending the Republican majorities. Just think about that for a second. Almost $1 billion. And that is just the Israeli government. That isn't the money that's being funneled from, it's like dual loyalty trope. I don't even think I'm not accusing anyone of dual loyalty. If you're willing to sacrifice the Republican majorities for the interest, the war and interest of another country, you don't have any loyalty to the United States. Your loyalty is to that country first. All right. So that has been my thing all along. And why do I care so much? Because, here, before I get again into the spiel, this is the entire point of the book. I wish it was published earlier. Sometimes, and for anyone who's ever written a book before, you know how this goes. It takes time. The publisher has a process. But I've been arguing the thesis publicly for a long time now. And the thesis Joshua, Isaac, and I are pointing out is that, look, MAGA can't afford to fail. MAGA can't afford to be seen as selling out to Bushism. They can't afford it because what is the alternative? The alternative is Mondani. They're not going back to some corporate version of Democrat control. Democrats as a party now. The Democratic Party is a majority socialist party. More than 60% in any given month identify with some form of socialism, whether it's outright socialism or what they rebranded as democratic socialism, which, yes, has the majority. And then there's a chunk that just says, I'm flatly a socialist on top of that, which pushes them at 60 or above every single month. You're not going to get a Joe Biden version or even a Barack Obama version of the Democratic Party anymore. It will continuously move to the left. No matter how they run, it doesn't matter. It's not how they will govern. And DSA and their candidates will start winning elections outside of areas just like New York. They will become mainstream because, again, it's demographics. Who identifies these socialists? Well, they're not boomers, folks, and boomers will soon. And if you're a boomer, I'm not saying this to scare you. Life is life, time is time. These are the nature of things. They turn 80 this year. In 2017, millennials actually became the largest voting eligible population in the United States. They just don't vote at a rate that eclipses the boomers yet. So they haven't flexed their political muscles as much as they could flex. The minute they do, if you don't have their vote, we're all screwed. And that is all that matters. Not Benjamin Netanyahu, not fat little curmudgeons like Mark Levin. None of that matters. Mark Levin will be gone when your kids are dealing with a socialist hellhole. Don't forget, you can follow Robert and I on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com, and Robert on sportspicks.locals.com. Don't forget to pre-order it, burn it down right now. You can scan it if you're watching on the TV, but of course the link is in the description. Is available for pre-order on Amazon now. We're working on the audiobook as fast as we can, but this is out right now. Go get it. I'm not saying this because I'm biased. I'm saying it because it's true. This is the most important political book written in the Trump era. Hands down, period, end of story. End of story. And I'm not saying it because it's me. I'm saying it because it's true. And it will be the debate for the next decade. Also, while you're at it, I am about to get in the car again and go. And you know what? Before I even bring this up, Robert, he's here. Let's bring him in. Robert, good to see you, my friend. It's good to be here with you. How you doing?
Absolutely. Good. We'll be going through tonight what is one of the topics. We'll hope we have a special guest towards the end.
Special guest.
As he's been released from custody. The recent escapee of the swamp in D.C. So but we'll also be going over and some people may wonder why, but we'll explain here now. There is a fundamental premise behind the president's strategy in the Iranian conflict that depends, in this case, on public opinion, something that obviously Richard has studied and understands very well. And as part of our political predictions about elections around the world, I've spent the better part of a decade understanding and studying in order to be able to predict the accuracy of elections around the world, where we've had success more often than not. And so the big assumption is, what exactly do the Iranian people want? Because that influences what the Iranian government is going to do. And that in turn influences what do the Shia populations, the Iranian allies in the region, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's the Houthis, whether it's the militias in Iran, whether it's the political pressure on neighboring Pakistan. What are those populations? How do they perceive Iran? Because it's important to understand Iranian public opinion and the public opinion of their allies in the region to understand how their leadership of the organizations are going to act in response to that public pressure. And in turn, that tells you whether the Trumpian strategy about escalating conflict and kinetic attempts to change the Iranian government are likely to succeed or more likely to backfire. And so there is available data, the polling data, and public opinion data and survey data we will be citing comes entirely and exclusively from Western American public opinion surveys. So there are poll makers, including the University of Maryland, including the Washington Institute for the Near East, including the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, including Gallup, including Reuters, including Pew. So in case, because people have been misled. The president himself has been badly misled about what the Iranian people actually think about their government and what their allies, who have one important factor in common with the Iranian population, which is religion. And that if you even dig into the opinion of this particular group, namely religiously observant Shia Muslims, you will discover that even in the US, even in the UK, even in Europe, where you find religiously observant Shia Muslims, a very different opinion of the Iranian government and the Islamic Republic than you will of non-Shia Iranians, which mislead many people in the West to think they're representative of Iranian opinion when they're actually misrepresentative of Iranian opinion. It's very similar to the deep dive that Richard and I did at the beginning of the Russo-Ukrainian War to explain why Ukraine was not going to have a bunch of people who can't wait to flood the front lines of that conflict, and instead are going to be likely over time developing protest against such conscription, and why the Russian population is not going to collapse at all, why they're not going to demand change of the presidency with Putin, and it would be just the opposite. We were able to forecast that war almost 5 years ago by understanding what the public opinion and the basis of that public opinion was in both Russia and Ukraine. We'll do the same thing here with Iran, so that people in the White House, people in Congress, people campaigning from office can understand why the current strategy cannot work, because it's based on one big fat flaw, which is that the Iranian people want to overthrow their government and install a pro-Israel, pro-U.S. government. It is quite the opposite. Once we dig into this data and discredit one of the fake pollsters that's out there, that's not even a pollster, but is the number one organization cited by Western organizations and institutions, including to the president themselves, when it was set up by USAID and the National Endowment for Democracy and the American Deep State to create completely fake polls using CIA-sponsored software, no less, in order to create a fake impression in the U.S. that a lot of good, people like Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee, he buys this fake news. There's key staffers in the White House that buy this fake news, and most unfortunately, at times, even people around Vance buy into this. Now they've been learning quickly and rapidly that it's otherwise. But the president himself is still caught up in this completely false information about what the Iranian people want, what the Shia populations and their allies regions want. They're not really Iranian proxies. They're really allies, and they're allies because they're co-religionists. It also explains where there is not a Shia-Sunni split like Indonesia and Malaysia. People might be surprised at how popular the Iranian government is.
I was to some extent. This is what surprised me. Let me just say, for people who don't know, what we're talking about. Listen, it's important that the president and others do get correct information about how the domestic population thinks, because you had bad actors out there like Mark Levin and Benjamin Netanyahu and even Ben Shapiro. One of the claims I'm going to bring up if we have time, Dave Rubin pushed. They all got their talking points. And it's simply not true. And this is something you're going to make a policy on. If you just push them or nudge them, Mr. President, they're going to rise up, because there's been 42,000 protesters who were killed by the Iranians. Also false, which I'll show you in a second. But what did surprise me was how, after all of this, Robert, I could come to believe why they would have a rally around the regime effect. But that's just not the case. What we found is that that was never going to happen, because this has not been the case for a long time in Iran. So I think that's what surprised me when is that learning something that first of all, the CIA does know. So when they hear claims like that, they did know it was fake. And I got to tell you, I have been talking to people, and they have said that they told the president, they told him it's BS. They told him you can't believe this source. It's us. We're lying. One thing that astonished me is that he has better people and trusted people he can trust. Not for nothing, but like you and me, you and I. Like, if you would pick up the phone and say, Robert, is this real? Is this right? Can I trust this? Or Rich, can I trust this? We're not going to lie to the president the way these people lie to the president. I don't understand why he's not utilizing better these people who are willing to be honest and willing to trust. But as far as I can tell, they all grabbed these talking points, and the president was absolutely waiting around for these protesters, Robert, because 42,000 were killed, innocent protesters. They were waiting around for Trump to just, come be their deliverance, and that they'll take it over from there once he gets them to a certain point. And also, the other thing that surprised me is the posture of the Iranian people, like the Persian people in general, overall, not just the Shias, but I guess the unity of it. That, because some of these polls we're going to show people, you'll see, guys, that they're not, I don't know how else to say this. They're not the monsters that they've been portrayed to be at all. And they're actually very supportive of their regime for totally different reasons that you may not understand. But we're going to try to tell you why. Yes, of course, there's always dissident. There's always dissident voices. Of course, that's how it works. But one thing, Robert, right off the rip, is that they don't view their government as tyrannical at all. They view them as rather representative. They think it's a democracy over there. Ahmadinejad was elected. The Ayatollah was totally credible. And even if you didn't agree with everything he said or everything he did, one of which you guys will see, his policy on nuclear weapons, because there's a whole debate about whether Islam even allows for the development of nuclear weapons, which we'll get into. They may have disagreed with him on some stuff, Robert, but it's like, you disagree with Joe Biden. So did I. Still don't want Iran to come in and kill him. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if they did, I'm going to be pissed.
And what's extraordinary in all of this is that the Iranian public leadership, their various presidents over the decades, because the survey data dates back to the mid-1980s, is that there's never been an Iranian political leader more unpopular than Starmer is at when he had to resign in the UK. Than Macron is right now in France. Than Merz is right now in Germany. Indeed, there's a few times that the leaders have reached the level that Joe Biden reached repeatedly in his term, that Donald Trump currently flirts with in his second term. That these numbers in the 30s you rarely find of Iranian public leaders. That they have higher confidence in their democracy as they perceive it than many Americans do. When they talk about being afraid of publicly voicing their opinions for retaliation. There's fewer Iranians that are concerned with voicing their opinions than there are people in the U.S., in the West, and Europe who are concerned about voicing their opinions.
Pull that up for everybody. Right now, I had that study up that you were just talking about how Iranians feel about their government. But let me bring up the free web, which I labeled Iran speech freedoms, like perceived Iran speech. This is question 12 in the survey, in the study. Folks, how do you think people in our country feel about voicing their political opinions? Do you think that generally they feel afraid about it, comfortable about it, or somewhere in between? Let's go back to March of 2023. Okay. It was higher than it is now at 23.5%. Afraid about it. Still, though, somewhere in between, just under 40%, comfortable about it, just over a third, right, at 34%. That's ticked up now to October 25th, which is, the most recent one here. That is, if you guys remember, by the way, what happened right before October 25th.
Yeah,
exactly. They had their Operation Midnight Hammer. Right. So this is after that. 35%, 34.6 say they're comfortable about it. 42.7, somewhere in between. Only 21.6% said they were afraid about it. And let me just also point out for people that you wrote a Substack. And everyone should go and read that Substack. I'm actually going to go and share the link right now in all the chats, because do the Iranian people want regime change? Robert wrote on Substack, and he gets into Gammon polling organization, which is a Western Intel-backed operation. It's out of the Netherlands, by the way.
Right? People who, by the way, do no other polling anywhere in the world. They have no track record of success in the poll. They don't poll anywhere. They don't do polling that you can predict around. Everybody, when you hear this, 80% of Iranians want to overthrow the regime, it all comes from one sole exclusive source, which is this. It was founded by people who want to change the regime, to change the government, and want regime change in Iran. It was funded by people who want regime change in Iran. The technology they used and the software they used are Intel-backed organizations of the West that want regime change in Iran. They're supported by the National Endowment for Democracy, U.S. aid, and cutouts and front groups for those people. It's a completely fake propaganda organization. And yet people are relying on it. The president's relying on it. There's some people still in the State Department and Pentagon who rely upon it. Many people in the think tanks rely upon it. Many members of Congress rely. It's completely fake. It's totally fake. By contrast, the polling like we're citing here, detailed polling of the Middle East by the University of Maryland, by the Anwar Sadat professor appointed there, been doing it for more than 12 years, has polled not only Iran, but throughout the Middle East and in the U.S. He's got an extensive, successful record of being able to preview what's happening in certain populations. How Iran has gone up and down in different parts of its allied world, depending on how much they're perceived as protecting and defending them. But so that's the main, and we're going to be citing heavily their October 2025 survey, which includes the data going back 3 years of their extensive surveys of Iran. They've used creative mechanisms to be able to reach them. They try to use the right polling combination of tools available to them, online and phone and other mechanisms to be able to reach them. They've figured out ways to couch and phrase the questions in ways that will elicit the most accurate answers. And what's amazing is if you had just reviewed their October 2025 survey, and they got surveys going back 12 years, and you'll find it's corroborated by a range of other pollsters: Washington Institute for the Near East, the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, including Reuters and Gallup and Pew, with similar Shia groups around. What you generally find is the first premise is the Shia. I mean, most Americans, sadly, if you ask them the difference between Shia and Sunni, they wouldn't even know there is a Shia and Sunni. I mean, just to be honest, because our American media just lies so systemically. They conflate Shia Islam with radical Sunni Islam, like Wahhabi groups and other groups. Almost all the terrorism groups. You can read the book Going to Tehran, written by two longtime U.S. public officials whose focal point was Iran. They published this book more than a decade ago, and they did deep surveys as well. You won't find a single Shia Muslim group that's been involved in suicidal terrorism, for example. That is a Sunni Islamic phenomenon, particularly of the Sunni Wahhabi and other related sectarian groups. There's a reason why Iran was at war with ISIS. Iran was at war with Al-Qaeda. Iran was at war with al-Nusra. Iran at various times was at war with the Taliban. There's a reason why Iran reached out after 9/11 and wanted to help. It's because the main people oppressing the Shia Islamic populations has been radical sectarian Sunni Islamic sects. In fact, the Shia exist because of oppression by the Sunni Islamic sects, disputing who was the legitimate heir to Muhammad. And so they built up this sort of, and it in fact has been an inhibiting and limiting factor in their support of the Palestinian cause. They support the Palestinian cause as a co-religionist underdog cause because the Shia religion has a sympathy with the underdog because they have so long and so often been the underdog. But there's disagreements between them and the Muslim Brotherhood. So the Iranian Revolution was seen throughout the Shia world as a protectorate of the Shia religious tradition from sectarian violence, often led by Sunni Islamic sects. So that's why they have strong appeal in every survey that's ever been done of the Shia population in Pakistan, of the Shia population in Bahrain, of the Shia population in Iraq, of the Shia population in Lebanon. That's where these alignments don't come about. We continue to fest through projection. We pretend that the groups that are allied with them are quote unquote proxies of Iran that they are funding. Rubio was out there saying this today. Not the case. These are groups that see Iran as their protector because they are the protector of the Shia. And consequently, that's why Hezbollah, in fact, the opinion of Iran will go down if the Shia in Lebanon don't think Iran is doing enough to protect Hezbollah, doing enough to protect the Shia in Iraq, doing enough to protect the Shia in Bahrain. This is the political restraint on Pakistan. 1/5 of their population are Shia. That means they have to be. There was very little coverage in the West about such mass protest in Pakistan after this war arose that there were Shia attacking the U.S. embassy in different locations there. So needs to be understood that this is fundamentally a religious movement, but not an imperial terroristic driven movement because Shia have a historic disagreement and dislike of it. Because they have been more often the victims of it. A lot of the Sunni sects that have sectarian Islamic fundamentalist violence that want to create caliphates. Caliphates were not a Shia phenomenon; they were a Sunni phenomenon. And without understanding that, then people step into the trap. And so that's where you can find articles and surveys all around about how do the Shia feel about the Iranian the Islamic Republic of Iran and Pakistan, Bahrain, Iraq, or Lebanon, or where there's not a big Sunni Shia split like there is such as Indonesia and Malaysia. You find approval ratings as high as 95%.
Yeah.
So then it shouldn't shock you that a country that's more than 90% religiously observant Shia, like Iran is a country where the people have never had a problem with their government, have never had a problem with the Islamic Republic of Iran. That has always been a tiny dissident minority, predominantly of upper middle class and Western-oriented intellectual class people who are not religiously observant Shia. And as the Iran government has relaxed a lot of its moral code restrictions in terms of its clothes, that's why you can go through parts of Tehran and find whole parts of it where nobody's wearing anything. Nobody's wearing a burqa. Nobody's wearing a hijab. There's nothing like that. And if you dig in, you'll find there's more people who want those strict codes enforced than there are people who strongly oppose it. But basically, the number of people who have ever wanted the Islamic Republic to collapse, the peak of it is 20%, and its average, as the West developed its announced imperial objectives, the support for change of the government in Iran has gone down. It's now around 5 to 6%. With any degree of consistency, and that's enforced and enhanced by what they've seen with their neighbors, Iraq, Syria, the Lebanon, and Libya.
Yeah, let me put that up. Actually, if you could change one thing, I think this is like really. There's so many misnomers that the neocons push. It's unbelievable, including. I mean, I can't wait to get into the this concept like. There's a fatwa not to build a nuclear weapon, but they're just lying, and the people want to kill Israel and knock Israel off the planet. It's crazy. It's so wrong. It's ridiculous. But just like what Robert just said, folks, let me just put this up on the map. It's just question 7 in this survey from University of Maryland. If you could change one thing about Iran, what would that be? Would you like Iran to become 5.1% more democratic and free? And a big part of
exactly. And this is after this it completely collapsed of support. The peak of that question got to 20% over their 12 years. It's now at the lowest level it has ever been because they interpret more democratic and free as more American control, more Israeli subordinate. And they don't want anything to do with that. When they rank their country on how democratic it is, they say over 5. If you rank parts of the Western Europe and the U.S., you will get lower numbers than that. Yeah. So they see their government as actually responsive, as reactive. Their complaint has been economic mismanagement, that they want their country to be more prosperous, more. They don't object to theocratic control. They object to the degree to which you have a bunch of religious leaders who don't understand the economy. That's where they have objection. And we've tried to make their economy squeal, but the more we do so and are seen as doing so, that shifts accountability from their leadership to us. So it actually undermines any effort of change of policy and direction in their government. And so once you understand there has never been a huge demand for overthrowing their government, there isn't a perception that they're an oppressed group under the theocracy. In fact, they see their government as a protect group, but they mostly see them as sometimes old guys that are a little out of touch. And thus, killing all of their old guys like we did has made their new government feel more in touch with their population rather than less in touch. If you would
look at more safe and secure, how that's skyrocketed over the years, Robert, because they don't feel, with the behavior of Israel since the October 23 attacks. And I'm not, again, we don't have to discuss, folks, well, Iran funded this and that. The point I'm making is in March 23, they actually had very little concern for their safety and security. And now it's almost 30%. I mean, that's number 2 in the October 25 poll. That's the second most cited, more safe and secure. Obviously, the economy and prosperity was number 1, which gets us to, let's get to the heart of like I don't want to say trick Trump, where the neocons were able to dupe Trump. Was this idea that the protests were being done by Iranians who want to cast off of a government they view as oppressive, and that was simply not true. The protests were done because of economic reasons, and Mossad attempted to hijack it and to agitate a small group of that protest that would make it about freedom and regime change. That was not organic at all. And by the way, the West was being blamed. When Iran, and I don't want to sound like we're over here defending the, the mullahs, Robert, but this is the truth, and the truth matters. The Iranian protesters that ended up being killed, I'm going to show something in a second, the claim is Iran killed 42,000 peaceful protesters. Like, you could put that in quotes, all right? and they were just trying to protest because they want freedom and they want to live like Westerners. And that's just simply a crock. There was a handful of them that were violent because Mossad agitated them the way that the left agitates certain people in this country. And they were attacking security forces, many of whom were not armed. And I'm going to put it up. You don't have to take the People's Pundit's word for it if you don't, believe me. You can go to Factually. You can go anywhere and go and drill down on the sources that they're citing. You don't have to take Factually's word for it either, and you will see. Bottom line, does the evidence support 42,000 killed? No. Not even close. Maybe some of those estimates range as high as 3,117. That's it. And they're definitely not peaceful. All right. So this is just not true. And this was used along with the information and the entire narrative that has been built up by largely neocons and then the deep state and the never-ending war machine over decades and decades and decades, that the Iranian people feel a certain way, which is that they hate Israel, they hate America, they're fanatics, and somehow that's true at the same time. You understand the logic here? At the same time that it's also true that they just are freedom-loving people who want the mullahs gone. Like, pick one. You can't make both. Both can't work, all right? Two cannot be true at once. The idea that they were just trying to pursue this nuclear weapon because they hate the great and little Satan and they're going to wipe, Israel off the face of the earth is slop. Can we get into the nuke program questions? Because the trend is huge.
You would have seen, it would have been predictive how the current leadership class, that the pressure against them, the Trump was utterly shocked by the mass public display, the biggest mass gathering for a single event in in world history was the mass gathering of 30 million plus people across the Shia world for the death of the Ayatollah. The Trump just couldn't understand it. He was baffled and bewildered by it. It partially triggered his rage to go back in and undermine and rug pull once again Vance's memorandum of understanding.
And the Mark Levin said that we missed an opportunity to execute heads of state and commit mass murder. I mean, he basically he did. He said we should kill everyone at this funeral. So did Larry Loomer. And these are insane people who want not just Iranians, Robert. They were like heads of state at that. Could you imagine if we were like that?
There are all kinds of leadership groups from all around the world, including the leaders in Russia, leaders in China, leaders from Saudi, from the Arab world, the Gulf world, around from the Muslim world, Indonesia and Malaysia. The reason why Vance has been focused on the economic aspect of saying let's offer a real meaningful and saying if we could realign the Iranian government to see economic opportunity, and if he could convince Trump that it's an economically wise policy to get a memorandum to enforce a new relationship with Iran, is because he understands what this data is, or has come to understand what this data shows. And what this data shows is two things. One, they strongly believe in their security. They don't want, there's the number of Iranian people, the Iranian population back in the fall of 2025 that said they would support restraint on enrichment, restraint on their ballistic missile program, restraint on support for Hezbollah or for the Houthis or for the Shia militias in Iraq is in the low single digits. So there's no support for that at all. That's why there was very little, the contrary to the narrative here in the West, the leaders of the trying to negotiate a deal were under restraint from public opinion. And this is a public opinion that once you understand its depth and its intensity, you know that that's going to be the opinion of high-ranking military personnel, high-ranking government personnel. They're going to be aware of this and also reflect and manifest it, that they were never in a position to do any deal like that at ever. They would have been overthrown by the population for giving in to the U.S. But the other thing that's changed, it used to be the case that Shia outside of Iran actually favored Iran to getting a nuclear weapon. And if you understand that the Shia around the world see Iran as their protector of their religious beliefs, as kind of the hidden imam come to life until the hidden imam is discovered under Shia religious tradition. That was one of the things Khomeini revolutionized within Shia thought. because traditionally they had been opposed to establishing governmental control because they were waiting for the return of the hidden imam, was that this was guardianship was necessary to protect the Shia. The Shia population outside of Iran said that they thought Iran should develop a nuclear weapon, while the Iranians followed the fatwa of their both of the Ayatollahs, Khomeini and Khamenei, and saying no, we really shouldn't. That had already changed before this war because of the attacks in the summer of 2025. By October of 2025, a majority of Iranians said no, we should go further and develop an atomic bomb. We need it as
let's
deterrent.
Bring this up. Let me bring that up. I was showing the Pakistani Shias, but let me make sure I just go in the right order. Let me go to question 47, because if we give all three of these questions that we pulled in the proper context, then you guys will get the whole picture and how things. And also, it's pre-October 23, so it matters. All right, this one dates back to August of 2019, because they've been doing this a while. Question 47. Now that the United States and what I love about how they do this, Robert, nationalism is the strongest force in the world. They do this survey as if they're one of them. Right. So they're eliciting correct views. It doesn't sound like a Western pollster, which I can show you guys in a second. I mean, it's the CIA. I'll show you the article. The CIA is like, that's our polling firm. It's bullshit. Yeah, it's an amazing. Oh, Gammon group. It stands for the Group for Analyzing and Measuring Attitudes in Iran. And I mean, a CIA official goes on the record and it's just like, this is total bullshit. Anyway, which when you're the only one getting responses like this and you're up against like so many of these other organizations and institutions that have been doing it for a lot longer, there's obviously clearly something wrong, but right. Now that the United States and Israel have attacked Iran's nuclear facilities, do you think Iran should? It was more popular to expand nuclear activities in 2019, before August 23 attack on Israel, before Trump's Operation Midnight Hammer that struck the Fordo and other two nuclear sites. It was more popular back then than it is now. Why does this matter to me? Because it shows you, number one, how full of crap the neocon narrative is. And the Blob and the Fox News and the Murdoch Incs and all of it. It's all just total horseshit. And two, how I want to use the right word here, but there's like mass wisdom in like the Persian mindset. They understand where like now may be a good time to expand our nuclear programs. Now may not. And also in between, of course, was the Ayatollah himself saying, no, we're not going to do this. We came to an agreement. Trump killed it. And now and that was the first administration. Now we're going to make sure that we don't step on America's toes. We don't push their buttons. And we're going to get to a point where we can develop a nuclear program for medical reasons, for energy reasons, but not to build a bomb. And for those who don't understand, Jack Posobiec tries explaining this to his audience all the time. The Ayatollah's fatwas mattered. Just because Benjamin Netanyahu goes on Fox News and pretends like it doesn't make it so. It mattered. He was there, not just the Iranian Shia leader, he was the region Shiite leader. So it mattered. And you can see it in the poll. You can actually see his influence in the public polling. 61.8% in August of 2019 said, no, I think we should continue to expand it. And this was at a point where Trump is killing the JCPOA, right? You guys remember this?
Right. By
October 25th, after Trump bombs Fordo, it tanks.
Right.
55.7. Where does it go? It mostly goes to rebuild its nuclear program to the current level. And if you really read the responses, and we've done interviews ourselves, which is why I know this is true. We have done a separate project with like expats that, so I know that this is true. There's a nationalistic, but almost like a religious nationalist kind of thing going on where they're like, why is Iran the only country in the world that is being told they can't defend themselves? And it bothers them because it's like, it makes them feel like the world, the US and Israeli led world treats them subhuman.
Well, you know what I mean? And the other factor that took place before October 2025, there was more skepticism towards Israel instigating conflict in the Middle East than there was the U.S. as to Iran.
Yeah.
By October
Yeah,
2025, they now are saying, no, this is U.S. led. This is U.S. instigated. This is U.S. originated. And this was before, again, the 2020, the most recent conflict.
Yeah.
This was just after, because Trump took such credit for it, it led to greater distrust of the United States.
Which hurt him, and you'll see it hurt him with the Iranian people. You'll see.
Correct.
You'll see.
Yeah. And we see it in a range of questions and answers. All of a sudden, they're like, let's increase our military support. Let's increase our military capacity. Contrary to like Rubio's narrative is, the Iranian government is hijacking all of the revenues to support themselves as a corrupt oligarchy and to fund defense programs.
Yep.
In fact, 2% of their GDP is spent on defense. we spend much more. Higher share.
It's ridiculous to pretend like, I mean, it's ridiculous, Rob.
It's continuous confession through projecting on Iran what we in the West have done repeatedly. But the other thing is the attacks destabilized any belief or faith or confidence that Trump could get a deal done. They didn't want to sacrifice any form of security for it. And they were increasingly inclined to say we should look at that it's no longer religiously prohibited. Even though at this point the fatwa was still in force.
Yeah.
A majority for the first time in Iranian polling history said it's time to look at developing an atomic bomb.
And that's what I got up on the screen right now. It wasn't until they goaded Trump into Operation Midnight Hammer, which they blackmailed him to do in exchange for passing the big, beautiful bill. It wasn't until then that a slim majority of Iranians even said it's time to build a bomb. So everything you and I said, which is like, you do this, you will ensure they build a bomb. You're going to push them to a point where it's the only way they can feel secure. To develop only nuclear power was 55.7 in July of 2022. By October 25th, it cratered to 43%. To have no nuclear weapons, 4.3, now 3.8. So there's about a 4%, 3 to 4%, depending on what month. March of 2024, they came in at 3. But, 3-4% to have no nuclear weapon. That's it. Or no nuclear program, excuse me. So why does that matter? Because the prevailing wisdom, and it's not wisdom, the prevailing stupidity in the West and among our so-called, foreign policy thinkers is that there's no reason for them to build a nuclear program. And that's funny. That's news to the Iranian people. And by the way, that's news to nuclear experts. Everyone knows there's alternate reasons to build a nuclear program, Robert.
Well, it's the reason why the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty exists. It was to guarantee the trade-off was agree not to develop nuclear weapons, and you'll get all the benefit of nuclear power, all the benefit of nuclear energy, all the things that nuclear power can provide in terms of not only energy, but in terms of certain kinds of unique medical products and the like. And so then they were on that side of the equation. The no nuclear program is kind of a proxy for the hardcore government change group, and you see that's into the 3s and the 4s. Used to 8s, 10s, 12s, 14s. Now it's in the low single, and this is before the latest conflict where we killed 100.
So you're telling me that Shah's son doesn't have any support, Robert?
Well, precisely. There was never any interest in that at all. There was no interest in overthrowing the government, no interest in the U.S. installing somebody, no interest in what people don't understand is if you go all the way back, there's a reason why the Shah collapsed so fast. The Shah collapsed so fast because his own soldiers wouldn't follow his orders. Yeah. Because his own police wouldn't follow his orders. Yep. So the same is true like the Cuban Revolution. How did Fidel succeed with 8 guys hanging out in the southern in the Sierra Maestras? It's because internally within Cuba, the police and the soldiers over time quit wanting to be on the side of Batista. Yep. So you have to have massive internal dissent within positions of influence, in order to have that, you need to have mass public dissent within the public because they're going to be representative of that, reflective of that, responsive to that. And what you see in all of the Iranian survey data, that was never there. That was never present.
% now, Robert, 90+% always said, no, we're going to have a nuclear program. So the idea that the Iranian regime could ever just decide to give up its nuclear program is slop. It's not realistic. It's never going to happen. And the more you push on them and you push on them, and you're creating a blowback. You're creating a rally around the Mueller effect, whatever you want to call it. I mean, so this is just, I mean, unrealistic is the word. I don't know what other word to call it.
What would have cost the leadership their power,
their credibility, and their
credibility is not by is not by resisting U.S. and Israeli demands, but would be by giving in to U.S. and Israeli demands. This is why the achievement of Vance in the Memorandum of Understanding is deeply underappreciated in the West and in the U.S., because his staff began to understand this as the process progressed, began to understand what was motivating the government, what could, Vance knew they could sell a Memorandum of Understanding that the country's populace would likely majority oppose by saying, we will deliver extraordinary economic benefits to you, and we will not require capitulation on the nuclear program, on your allies, or your ballistic missiles. And in fact, we will concede some degree of your control over the Strait of Hormuz. And in exchange, but don't worry, we're going to deliver billions and billions of dollars of economic relief and remedy. And the Vance understood that. He couldn't sell that to Trump because Trump's in his own delusional world. So he found other ways to sell it to Trump. Look, we're going to have an economic catastrophe if we don't do this deal.
Which is also true. I mean,
absolutely true. But it's why the premise of Vance's deal that has been so dismissed by the think tank crowd is deeply underappreciated, because Vance's people learned what the true Iranian public opinion was.
95% now, Robert. It's been pushed to 95%. You know, I mean, how long we've been doing this? Guys, you don't get 95% agreement on almost anything. It just almost never happens. That's not how survey research works, because that's not how human beings work. But this has been pushed now into such a hyper nationalist, hyper ethno-religious, kind of like issue that you have balkanized them. You've made and in the worst way. I mean,
well, you've radicalized them.
You radicalized them.
Now they see their survival, their security, their pride, their religion,
their
dependent upon.
Yes,
exactly. Dependent on now developing. They want to develop an atomic bomb. That's political pressure.
And let me just show them, because now it's impacting even how they feel. Their religion dictates this, answers this question. Because once upon a time, this is something that surprised me, guys. This is another thing that did. I didn't realize, and then I researched it looking at the question, and then I obviously learned more about it, but I didn't realize that, maybe because I dealt with Sunnis for in the entire post 9/11 world, I didn't realize there was an alternative take on nuclear weapons in general from the Shia side of Islam. I just didn't, honestly, just being real, didn't know. All right. Maybe I've heard of it here and there, but there's always so much slop coming your way. I didn't realize it was this real, and it is. And you can see it from the survey data going back a decade plus, 12 years. All right. Look at the first, we're going to start with July of 2014. And this is question 52 in the most recent. Some say developing nuclear weapons is against the teachings of Islam, and some disagree and say Islam does not prohibit the development of nuclear weapons. Before I read the question to that prompt, the reason what they mean by some is, again, how they frame these research questions to the Iranian people. They're doing it like we're one of you, right? So when they say some say it's against the teachings, we do. Others disagree, the Sunnis, and that's what it is, right? So which of these views is closer to yours? To me, when I first read it, Robert, I was thinking it's like, well, there are some hardliners in Iran who want to develop nuclear weapons because they want to bomb to blow Israel up. Like, maybe those people do exist. And that's actually not the totality of the narrative here. And again, I have Persian friends, and I don't know why I didn't tap them to ask them more about this sooner, but I'm glad I did now. But in any event, which of these views is closer to yours? In July of 2014, folks, development of nuclear weapons is against the teachings of Islam. 71.2%. 71.2%. Now, 46.8%. It's still greater than Islam does not prohibit the development of nuclear weapons, but at one point, which is now 36.9 compared to just 12.7. So go back to right before the midterm elections. Republicans did well against Democrats, and Barack Obama's, in his second midterm, you remember that, is not his first term incumbent midterm, his second term incumbent midterm. And we're being told all of this crap, that they're fanatics. I mean, you can go back and find the clips of Mark Levin. They're Islamofascists. If they get a bomb, they're going to wipe, Israel off the face of the earth. Meanwhile, only less than 13% of the people in the population of Iran even believe that, Robert. Like, even believe that is permitted, but like Allah even permits that.
And it explains why a JCPOA could be reached at that time. You could reach one in 2014 because it was overwhelmingly believed by the Iranian public that they shouldn't develop a nuclear weapons anyway. So if they got sanctions relief to boost their economy, simply going on the record with no nuclear weapons was completely consistent to what they believed Islam required. After our coercive strategy of dropping out, not giving, of just going full coercion rather than any kind of cooperation or compromise, and especially after the attacks of summer of 2025, by October that number's to less than half. I guarantee you that number now is probably in the 20s. And what does that mean? It means quit trying to think we're going to get a GC. There's going to be no nuclear agreement with Iran. The Iranian public will not tolerate it or accept it. That is gone. That is off the table for Trump. So the pretending they could ever get there, it's the reason why it was put off in the deal. The Iranian leaders know their public is no longer interested in that.
And Robert, then what does that mean? Then your choice is to just take the lump and end it and just be realistic, or kill everybody.
Right, exactly. You either commit mass genocide or you exit. That's it. There is no alternative. And there are people that were just in Iran that are part of sort of the independent geopolitical sphere who were trying to get as much opinion as they could from as many people as they could. And what they were hearing was people were like, look, we don't care if there's only 10% of us left. We're not going to give up our pride, our religion, our beliefs to give in. Because once you start going down the coercive path, where does it stop? And we've seen how it worked for Syria and for Libya and for Lebanon and Iraq. And we have no interest in being one of those places. There was a century of humiliation of the Persians in the build up to World War II and through the Shah. In their view, they had a lost century of Persian pride that they see as being restored. So you had a combination of Shia belief, saying we finally have a religious group, a religious leadership class that's going to defend and protect us throughout the world and in our home nation. But also, we finally restored a Persian government that is not controlled by some foreign influence. And we're not being divvied up and cut up into little pieces by foreign invaders and intruders. And that combination went from believing we shouldn't develop nuclear weapons to now we should develop nuclear weapons. It went from the willing to compromise for sanctions relief to saying we won't compromise no matter what. And that's the mass public. And that was happening in October, which means it's much worse now after this war, where they've seen the 4-year-old granddaughter in a tiny little box sent around the entire Iranian population to mourn in the recent funeral, because people are focused on the Ayatollah, but they're forgetting that box right out in front, real small, because that was the 4-year-old granddaughter that we killed. That Trump's crying about him being put on that Iranians want him dead. Well, maybe don't kill 4-year-old granddaughters then next time, President Trump. What do you think was going to happen?
You set the precedent, taking out officials like that, Robert, and then taking their family members, including children, with them. And you can see in the change in how they believe in the military response. But I did catch somebody's thing in the corner of my eye. Maybe we didn't explain this correctly. So let me just briefly show what, the gammon thing. All right. And I'm going to put it up on the screen because this is true. I mean, tell me this doesn't ring true to you guys or sound familiar. I mean, because you know what you're flooded with, you know the information they flood the zone with. I'm going to read a few things that are really important. CIA analysts dropping the bomb on this. All right. So as part of the American campaign, People are already like, with the Israel lobby and want regime change in Iran. This obviously started before Operation Midnight Hammer. The lobby marched in here in March after Trump had a couple of months of peace and quiet and doing amazing things domestically. The ceasefire was ending in Gaza. And then, of course, they said, you know what, we're going to do a very small window to get Trump to do what we think we can do. All right. So the intel community that's on that side, and of course, they're pro-regime change, we're utilizing something called operational preparation of the environment, or what they call OPE. All right. It's a joint published manuals. You can read it. It's JP3-05 in special operations. All right. So in other words, it creates conditions for success with what they want to do and involves shaping the environment, us, what we think politically, through intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, information operations, civilian affairs, psychological operations, and other preparatory actions, often in hard to monitor or politically sensitive areas. One of the largest efforts of OPE is to convince the American public that the vast majority of Iranians dislike the Islamic Republic and wish to overthrow it. Sound familiar? A key factor in this operation is the polling institute Gammon, which again stands for the Group for Analyzing and Measuring Attitudes in Iran. It collaborates with Siphon VPN, which is widely used in Iran. Gammon's results have consistently shown a picture which is contrary to the public polling data you can go out and Google right now to corroborate what Robert and I are showing you, which is from more reputable places, the University of Maryland, Pew, Gallup. I mean, people have been doing this for decades. They have consistently shown a picture of massive opposition to the Iranian regime, according to Gammon's polls prior to 2025, which you guys just saw a bunch of polls painting a picture for you about how the Iranian people felt in 2025 on a host of issues. But according to Gammon, prior to even Operation Midnight Hammer, a significant majority of Iranians, about 70%, opposed the continuation of the Islamic Republic. The highest level of opposition, 81%, was recorded during the, are you ready? Women, Life, and Freedom uprising in late 2022. Go and Google the Women, Life, and Freedom uprising and who was behind that. Support for the principles of the Islamic Revolution and the supreme leader dropped from 18% in 22 to 11 in 24. Opposition to the Islamic Republic is the highest among the youth, urban residents, and the highly educated. The vast majority of Iranians said they support democracy. Well, we just got done showing you that actually that's not a priority for them at all. And they already think that their country is representative. It's horse shit, guys. But the funding sources, where do they come from? It's very, very, very concerning. This is Tony Blair's Institute, funded by USAID, the National Endowment for Democracy, which we all know is a neocon hack organization, Citizen Lab, which is at the University of Toronto. Well, actually, it was developed. Their thing was developed by Citizen Lab. But again, it's why would it have to be registered in the Netherlands to get around our laws? To get around that this is a complete sham. This is an Intel-backed, so-called. It's a front.
Yeah,
it's a front.
It's people who have done no polling anywhere else, and have no reliable polling techniques anywhere else, using software that is CIA sponsored, that is CIA controlled, that you had to use that particular VPN, and that particular VPN was actually put in Iran and put around the world by the CIA. The CIA helped create it. So the everything about it screamed fake, fake, fake. There's nothing reliable or trustworthy about this organization. They haven't proven themselves in any kind of electoral context or any context outside.
He has no track record as a public researcher. Who is Amar Malachi? He's like, nobody knows who this guy is.
It'd be like me saying I'm a chemist tomorrow, and I've done some chemistry tests, and I've found some things out. You know, when I did ChemCon in high school, chemistry in the community, I figured out that oil was good for grass. I mean, I wouldn't rely on me for chemistry. So that's how nuts this was. And this is who Fox News and the Wall Street Journal, but even think tanks, members of Congress, their staffs, the President of the United States believe this utter gibberish and garbage.
That's who George Keane is walking in to the office. And look at this new survey, Mr. President. Look at it. It's again, the power of the intel state, and meanwhile you have proven, and I'm not a big fan of the academic class, Robert, but you have proven academics and proven researchers in this field who will tell you, who must be like pulling their hair out Like, wait a minute, what are you talking about?
Well, especially if you contrast it to someplace like Venezuela.
Yeah.
The reason why there's so many easily corrupt people in Venezuela, despite, especially particularly given its long history, is that the government there doesn't have a huge level of confidence or credibility with the public. That is totally the opposite of the Persian, Iranian, Shia population. That they do have confidence, they do have belief, they do have trust, and they want more security, not less. They want to be tougher, not less, more diplomatic. And they've increasingly shifted. The more you use kinetic means, the more they will not only rally around the flag, the more it will trigger their Persian pride and Shia sense of sacrifice to prove to you, you will never coerce us into anything.
Which is what this shows right here. I knew you're going there, and I'm like, where is the question dealing with how they believe Iran should respond, which, by the way, understand this, the regime must maintain regime credibility with its population. Every regime has to do that. It doesn't matter if it's a theocracy, a dictatorship of some sort, or whether it's a democratic government of some nature. You have to maintain regime credibility. Joe Biden lost it, by the way, which is why the country was about to fall apart. I mean, too many people didn't believe he was legitimate. So they're calculating this like any other rational nation state actor is calculating. How do we maintain regime credibility and security? Those are the two primary things that any leader of any nation, no matter what their system of government, must concern themselves with if they want to continue to be the leaders of those countries. And here, Robert, it tells you the population is actually much more hawkish than the regime has been. They have had a very, very measured tit for tat response, not to sound and go all Tucker on you folks, but Tucker is right. They have been more moderate and more measured. And I'll say the same thing about Vladimir Putin than many of our Western countries have been, or so-called Western aligned countries. So when you look at polling of the population of Israel, for instance, versus the actions of the Israeli government, it is much, much more abusive of average views of their population than the Iranians are. The Iranians are tempering their population. The Iranian leadership, look at it, again, as you may know, there have been numerous military incidents in past months involving Iran, Israel, the United States, and the Persian Gulf countries. Please say which of the following, right? And that's whenever there is evidence of a violation of Iranian waters, airspace, or an attack on an Iranian vessel or aircraft, Iran should punish the perpetrators to make such incidents less likely in the future. Now, note, the prompt specifically states Israel and the United States. So they understand what's at stake by punishing. That's a military, right. In their mind.
So you're taking on a much more powerful military coalition.
Yes, exactly. And in August of 2019, 76.6% chose that. February 2021, 72.3%. March of 24, 74.1. October of 24, ticked down a little bit to 71.5. After Operation Midnight Hammer, 78.7. It actually hit an all-time high in the survey conducted after Operation Midnight Hammer. That's, first of all, you got to respect it. That's brass balls, brother. Brass balls. But it does show what we're talking about, that this shows the rally effect. Yes,
exactly. The Persian pride and Iranian nationalism and Shia sacrifice was going to rally them to be harder. But the more you hit them, the more they will hit back.
Yes,
the more they will not capitulate. They do not respond to coercive mechanisms. They respond adversely to coercive mechanisms. That doesn't make them want to become more. Trump is operating under the continuous false premise that if he hits them just a little harder, like Vance went just the opposite. Vance went all carrot, no stick. Carrot, 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 carrot. We'll respect your influence in the Strait of Hormuz. We'll respect your ballistic missiles. We'll respect your alliances with the Houthis, Hezbollah, the Shia militias, and others. We won't ask you to do anything that undermines your confidence with the Iranian public. Just agree to open up the strait. It can still be under your control, but we'll get a lot of sanctions relief. We'll get a lot of cash to you. We'll make your economy better. And that and with the long-term end of once that works, the Iranian public will be okay with more controls on their nuclear program. knowing that the public opinion was they didn't want any more controls on their nuclear program. They wanted to go further by October 2025 in their nuclear program to developing a nuclear bomb. That their religious restraint was disappearing in live time and no longer a majority of the country. That the goal was deliver economically. Don't try to insult them. Don't, just all carrot, 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 carrot. Trump refuses to recognize that because he thinks, if I just go back with a stick, they'll fold. Because they're not popular, they're not supported. The population wants what I'm offering, not what their government is offering, not what their republic is offering, the Islamic Republic is offering, and that's why he was shocked by when he saw the full display, and then he just convinced himself that somehow it was fake, that somehow that they're not all waving the red flag, demanding revenge. The reality is signing the MOU was bad for the Iranian leadership. They got negative blowback. And when it collapsed, they said, see, you cannot trust the Americans. Yep. You cannot respond to coercion. You have to be, and the more Trump hits them, the more they will hit back. Trump will never achieve what he wants in Iran by coercive tools.
There's no military solution, Robert. And I'm going to explain to everybody real quick why that is. By the way, later tonight, I did an interview with Matt Gaetz. People should go watch it on One America's News. He literally asked me this question about what happens if it continues when it comes to the midterms, right? One of the points I made is that we really are, more of a self-governing society than they are, no matter what they think. That's true. But the fact is, what we're looking at right now, including the last question and then question 28, which tells you about the October 24 attack, which destroyed some by Israel, which destroyed some of Iran's air defense capabilities. In the last poll, the after Midnight Hammer, the poll after Midnight Hammer, 54.5% said Iran not responding because the regime did not respond. The majority said that was a mistake, Robert. And now we have them, making, the declarations, and seeing the trend heading in a very clear direction. Now, if you contrast that with American public opinion, because, guys, what we're looking at is something called resolve. And they're calculating that they have greater resolve than us and they can take more punishment than we can. Now, are they going to be hurt from it? Of course. But that they have the backing of the people, whereas Trump for the war does not. And they're right. And the president today shared our poll. I'm hoping beyond hope. I'll tell you, Robert, I told you privately, I thought this weekend was another failure. I didn't accomplish what I was hoping to accomplish. I had a great time, whatever. So did we all. So did our, by the way, we got our special guest here. But I didn't think that I really got through. I'll be honest with you. The donor class seems like they're living their best life. They've resigned that they're going to get their ass kicked in November and they're okay. They just don't care. They're along for the ride until the ride is over and they're just having fun. And I don't think Trump believes that, but I think that's how they're okay with it. They just don't care about your suffering, folks. I'm being honest. I'm just being perfectly honest. A bunch of them are really nice people, but they're doing well and they don't see or care to see your pain and your preference. They think that, and our guest will be a testament to it because he heard them too. They think we can bomb Iran into submission eventually. And what they don't understand is, and I hope above hope that we did make some ground here and that Trump, this is signal out of the White House this morning, fresh Monday morning comes around. He starts laying the groundwork look, peace is popular. I hope this is signal and it's telling us that there's maybe another deal in the work. I've been trying hard to get some information today, but I'm not really confident to say one way or the other because you never know with the Trump White House. But that the contrast what we just showed you with how Iranians feel, with how Americans feel. They want peace. They don't want this war at all. And this was after a bombardment from a well-funded Israel lobby, Israel first, neocon, forever war. They don't want a peace plan no matter what. Trump could get them everything that they want, which we just proved to you is totally unrealistic. It's never going to happen. But even if J.D. Vance came back with that deal, they would still find something wrong with it because the truth is they're lying about their objectives. They don't care. Americans, and this is Trump posting our poll, Americans don't want it. Trump understands that. And I'm hoping that this is that move, Robert. We'll see. But one thing about what he posted is he grabbed the right graphic. The generic ballot tightened. He got an 8-point bump. And if you look, likely voters actually support peace more than And there's no difference in opposition, but likely voters actually support peace more than registered voters. And if you go by party in that poll, you'll see most of the people who oppose the peace deal are neocons who are nothing. They represent nothing in the population. And then Democrats who are hoping Trump continues the war because they know it's unpopular and they want him to continue it because they know they're going to win if he continues, or they know they're going to win big if he continues. So and I can show that people right now. Let me just actually show that to people. So this is what Trump in the full form shared. He went to they went to the website and they grabbed it. One of the graphics that he grabbed that I put up, I thought was really key, Robert. I really did, which was, I don't know why it's not shown. Oh, because the image is showing. If you look at who's voters, Trump voters, 77%, which was higher than the nation overall, supported the peace deal. Only 13% opposed it. 50% of Harris voters supported it. 34% of Harris voters opposed it. That's Democrats being shrewd and saying, oh, please listen to stupid curmudgeon Mark Levin. Please keep listening to that stupid fat little loser. We're gonna wipe the floor with you guys in November if you keep listening to Ben Shapiro and his nasally little annoying ass low testosterone voice and curmudgeon Mark Levin. Please listen to those two morons, and so we can wipe the floor with you and put everybody in the Trump administration under impeachment and indictment. Like, this is what they want. They want this. And I don't know. I mean, I'm at the point where I just don't want to get my hopes up anymore. You know what I mean? So like, that's where I am. But I mean, Robert, you agree, like those Democrats want Republicans.
Oh, you mean that 34%?
Yeah.
But the bottom, what all the data shows is that Trump cannot achieve the outcome he wants by continuing a kinetic conflict and continuing coercive tools.
Yeah.
That the Vance strategy of focusing on a carrot and not a stick is the only one to get anything out of Iran. And he most likely needs to just exit it for the time being to let things cool down for, probably 6 months or so. Before even re-examining what can be done with getting a negotiated outcome, if that can be achieved in Iran. That the way in which he rug pulled this has given it's not the hardliners in Iran, it's the hardline population and attitude in Iran. That's what he unleashed by what he has done. And he did it first in the summer of 2025. Then he made it worse with the economic war in early 2026. Then made it horrendous by the kinetic conflict that killed all those little girls and the granddaughter of the Ayatollah. And then he has rug pulled the last bit of confidence anybody in the Iranian population has in Trump by this latest rug pull of the deal. Yeah. And so for those that are in the White House that quit living in a denial land about this achieving anything positive in Iran, and that means it's never going to achieve anything positive for the U.S. And the U.S. public opinion is overwhelmingly in favor of the same geopolitical outcome that's the only achievable outcome at the moment, which is to get the heck out. Ideally, we would get back to something that's like the MOU, but the reality is that's probably going to be delayed in efficacy and enforceability because of where the Iranian public is. Once they
killed our chance. They killed our chance, Robert.
Correct, exactly. Vance rescued the administration from itself to provide a salvageable option out of this conflict politically and economically for our own purposes, but also for any restructuring of the relationship between the U.S. and Iran and the U.S. and the Middle East. And Trump rug pulled it probably for the last time. And so now people need to recognize going further only escalates our risk, escalates our exposure. It will not change Iranian conduct because of where Iranian public opinion is. And for that, look at what Joe Ken has been urging now is the exit and restrain Israel. Israel's internally falling apart politically. Bibi Netanyahu is getting even more underwater. He's trying to figure out how he can try to get out of the late October elections.
I know.
There's a reason why they haven't joined this conflict during this time period. It's because they couldn't handle the Iranian retaliation. We have more and more, it's a young Hispanic woman that died yesterday from she didn't need to be there. We didn't need to be in this conflict. You think that's going to play over well in Hispanic voting groups in November? You're living in a fantasy land, talking all tough. Oh, I'll kill twice and 3 times as many. You already have done that, President Trump. That is not going to solve anything. It increases the risk to our soldiers and people there. Quit pretending that they had real sacrifice. They sacrificed for your stupid actions. Don't keep compounding it. And if you do, you're going to be the first president removed from the presidency. That's what you people in the White House better wake up to this reality, because that's what you are help bringing about. If you have an iota of survival instinct in you, you need to get us the heck out of this and get us out of it now.
You are not loyal to President Trump if you continue this Pete Hegseth central casting song and dance bullshit, dude. I know you're having fun, Pete. You're also deeply, deeply endangering the president. So, I mean, we're at a point now where if you are Rubio, Pete Hegseth, any of these guys, not only are you not looking out for Donald Trump and his political survival and whether he'll even finish his administration, you're sabotaging him at this point. You're putting him in a position where he's in a no-win. Either way, he could be removed. If he keeps going, he'll preside over the worst, most unpopular war in history, and he'll lose every bit of his political capital that could prevent Republicans from just totally turning on him. And then you've walked him up to the line where if he gets out of the Iran war, we already saw it. The Mark Levins and all the rest of them will turn on him. The senators who do their bidding, like Tel Aviv Ted Cruz, will turn on him. So he'll have conviction votes in that sense, So this is what you did to him. You didn't protect the president at all. You weren't loyal to the president at all. You backstabbed him. Sometimes being loyal is the harder thing to do. And sometimes being loyal means doing appearing to be in opposition to him because you're looking out for his best interest. And honestly, our guest did that too. And there has been very, very few of us, and he got punished for it. I mean, that's it. I'm going to let you do most of this because I want to be careful, So I'm going to let you do most. See him laughing below. But I do, because I don't want to say something too wrong here. But listen, I mean, the clapping seals, I'll leave it at this before I bring on our guest here. The clapping seals could have destroyed our country. They literally could have, because if they are successful in removing Trump in any way, or even just getting him to hang it up early, like a Nixon thing, because he's that opposed and paralyzed. Frankly, we could get in a position where the government's just politically paralyzed. And that's what happened to Nixon. And he was facing what he knew would eventually, he would be removed. He would have been convicted. If that happens, guys, imagine when the next time is that somebody legitimate is really going to put themselves in that position. Honestly, I think Vance would second think even running for president at that point, which I have a lot to say about with that too. All of these people who coordinated came out against Vance. They're all the same people who opposed Donald Trump in 2016, who opposed him in 24, who secretly cheered on third-party people trying to primary him. By the way, some of those Israel firsters are now responsible for Bruce Blakeman in New York. Who did he pick? Who did Bruce Blakeman pick as his running mate, as lieutenant governor in New York? Gee, I don't know, that guy on the primary ballot in New Hampshire in 2020. I mean, it's so obvious. It's so obvious. And unfortunately, the Rubio stock with these people has risen, and that's who they want. And, that'll be a topic for another show. But Marco Rubio, look at me, everybody, unequivocally, Marco Rubio has zero chance to become president of the United States. Zero. He can't win Michigan. He can't win Pennsylvania. He can't win Wisconsin. And that he would need to do one, if not all, because they all vote together, while holding the Sun Belt, which I don't think he can do. I don't think he can, Robert. I don't think he can keep Georgia.
You mean you don't think hola, Mexican? I am Hispanic too. I'll work in Arizona, Nevada. And everywhere else. But yeah, do we have our special guest, a recent escapee from prison, from the swamp? He's no longer incarcerated.
Freshly broken out, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Mitchell.
It's good to be back. Yeah, this is my first video, so excuse me if the technical stuff doesn't work right. I have to thank everybody because those Mark Mitchell ransom funds were some real comedy over the last couple of months. I really appreciate
the so the you got
They
the
really
honest
are.
poll in the background. The can you describe the new intentions,
Yep.
new organization, great name after the X follower. Give people an update on what they can see coming soon.
100%. I will do a video that talks more about exactly what happened over the last couple of months. I'm going to put it off a little bit, but a long story short, I was the head pollster of Rasmussen Reports for over 5 years. The company was like functionally falling apart, and I came in and rebuilt it basically. And it's an independent pollster, and my goal was to be independent, represent voters. And one of the ways that somebody is independent is that they will criticize anybody. And so somebody did something that wasn't in the best interest of the voters, I would criticize them. And that was all well and good, and everybody appreciated it until my stock went a little too high, and it turned out that some of my criticism might have jeopardized the potential of Rasmussen Reports to monetize my own credibility. And so I was essentially put in a box and told no more commentary. And the second that happened, I knew I had to get out. And that was back in February. And so for the last couple of months, I've been looking forward to what I'm going to do next. And what I'm doing next is the Honest Polling Company. We just put our first press release out on Friday. It's at Honest Poll Co. on Twitter. And we're an independent pollster. And listen, this is the only way, really, that I could be completely uninhibited in my commentary. And I have a lot of commentary that I've been sitting on for the last couple months because basically, I mean, Rich, you and I, well, you too, Robert, but what we were saying back at the end of January, beginning of February was, I mean, I think we need like some major vindication here. Like, we were right. This is Pandora's box. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube on this thing. And he took what should have been the highest political capital period of all 8 years of his presidency and flushed it down the drain for Israel.
Yep.
The goal is to describe. Richard has talked about this, but you share it as well, Mark, in the commitment that the importance, like we were just discussing Iranian public opinion, we've done it previously on Russia, that often this is essential to good public decision making, that you have to make sure the public has a voice with the decision makers, not just in the one-off elections that happen every 2, 4, 5 years, depending on where you are in the country or where you are in the world. But George Gallup's goal was to make sure the public had constant, continuous representation by getting honest, accurate data about what the public was thinking, about what public opinion was, to counterbalance all the bought-off think tanks, all the corporate lobbyists, all the donor class control that otherwise captures members of Congress, captures decision makers at every level of government, captures the president. The part of it was pushing it back, and you've proven your bona fides and willing to do it, even when it means upsetting the president, even if it means upsetting the president's donor class, even if it means upsetting other people you're employed with, but that's essential, that credibility, that authenticity matters, so that people know that you're not a bought-off pollster doing a fake poll. I won't mention a certain prominent presidential pollster who might do this on a regular basis, who's secretly working for foreign lobbyists and secretly working for Pfizer while he's giving advice to the president of the United States.
Yeah.
But can you talk about the importance of maintaining authenticity and credibility, and the incredibly important role that honest public opinion polls have on maintaining and sustaining our constitutional republic?
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. I actually just ordered a copy of Gallup's Pulse of Democracy, 1940s edition. Little heavy reading, but I'm working my way through it. And I believe that 100%.
Yeah.
And back then, they were doing it for the love of the game, and they were doing it for integrity, and people cared about credibility. But polling is so commoditized right now that what I've seen, especially over the last couple of months, and as you've probably teased, there's a really big story here that's going to come out that includes a lot more than just us here on this call about what's been happening behind the scenes with the Trump administration. And, I'll pile on top of that when that comes out.
Right.
Is that in this environment, polling doesn't make that much money. And so the people that make a lot of money are the pollster lobbyists, right? Or the people that have access. And those people can only do their job when they can maintain a facade, when they can lie with ease and not have to defend their work and say, oh, wow, that was just a tough one, but they really did it to get a paycheck, or, like that happens a lot. And people say in my replies, well, Mark, why do you talk so much? I just want your numbers. Well, it's like, I'm talking so I'm honest. Like, it's at some point, if I was lying about anything, it would come back to get me. I blab so much. You too, Rich. You put hours and hours of content a week. That's how we're honest. That's it. And we're making our money on YouTube because literally we don't get those $2 million checks to fake numbers to lie and sell Americans down the river. And this happens all the time. The donor class doesn't give a crap. They really don't. They're along for the ride. They like Trump. They like the experience. They go to his parties as if it's some kind of amusement park.
Yeah.
And they don't really care so much that we got bogged down in Iran. The reason people are freaking out, the reason people who voted for Trump, the working class, the blue collar workers that voted for him for the first time, these union people, the reason they're freaking out is because this is taking the place of what they needed. They needed domestic policy. They needed economic rationalization. And Trump was just like, like whatever. We'll just, completely blow up the entire world economy because of reasons. It's just not good enough. They're not being represented.
Yeah, Mark, can I just add something to what you just said about the donor class? Over the weekend, I'm curious if this is the same with you. The number one, and it wasn't even a question, the number one thing that I got asked was, how bad is it going to be? And like they, but they accepting it and laughing almost like it's a joke because to them, it doesn't matter. They're going to be okay. And I had a conversation with Jack Posobiec about it afterward because he was hoping, tell me some good news, man. Tell me some good news. And you know what Jack said? And he was like, you know what? One day they're going to find themselves not laughing very hard. Because, when socialists take over, communists take over, how this goes, we know this playbook. Who's always the first to go? So you'll be writing books, how to survive a democratic gulag soon. That, and we'll see if you find it funny then. But I think what you said too before, I'm curious. Well, first of all, did you get that a lot?
From the party?
Yeah, from the donor class.
I saw, my observations were that anybody who paid $8,000 for the check or $50,000 or whatever it is, those people were just videotaping. Like, hey, see, I'm here. Like, look at this. I went to the amusement park. Yep. And then anybody who didn't was like, yeah, like, man, Trump betrayed us. They're like just people who were there, the journalists, the think tank people were really frustrated with what was going on. But your sentiment there, like that fits perfectly. How bad is it going to be? Spoken as if they're just talking about a stock portfolio that's going to be down this year.
Yes,
they always do.
Put it. That's such a good way to put it. It's just like, hey, the market goes up and down, and they don't understand that when you're on the peaks and the troughs for them, like the bottom for what happened. Did you forget what the bottom's like for the forgotten man and woman? Like what happened to them? Where's their voice in this? Where's the care for them in this? And bringing up Miss Gonzalez and what Robert said before. I thought about this the minute I saw the House GOP put this picture up, her sacrifice will never be forgotten. Trump delivered them the highest vote share ever among Hispanics for a Republican presidential candidate, one they lagged badly behind. And they have no self-awareness whatsoever because they're attending the same parties. This is what they're doing. And life's going to go on for them too, except for a handful of them who end up in battleground districts that get swept away. The majority of them, that's how it is, unfortunately, with Congress, they'll be incumbents and life will go on, not realizing that, Hispanics didn't vote to send their daughters to die in the Middle East for Israel. They didn't do that. They voted for a radical transformation of the domestic system, how things work here. And, I don't even know how to take a victory lap a year later because some of these people are so deeply dishonest to cover up their bad takes. I really feel like one of the big things that disturbs me, Mark, is that there are people who have credibility to speak on these issues, and then there are people who don't. And there's so many people speaking that those who had the credibility and obviously the right take, their voices got drowned out. You know, and when you have like two people trying to speak against a mob of clapping seals, it's very hard to hear those two people.
Yeah.
You know,
They're not going to win though, Rich. Come on, man. $730 million this year that we're going up against. We got that. We got that, bro. Like, it's not going to be a problem. But I mean, just think about the insane numbers there. A country 1/20th the size of the United States has allocated $730 million in foreign influence money over the next 12 months in one program. Forget all the other stuff in one program. And they're using it to buy influencers and drive bot armies. And they're so easy to spot. Like, it doesn't even bother me. They will throw an ad hominem attack. They'll make some like jibe or something, and it means nothing, and you can laugh at it. But you can see the tactic. They are trying to basically isolate a certain group of people. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Alex Jones. I'm going to be on Alex Jones tomorrow. Even Trump now is leaning into it because I think the people he's surrounded by are saying, like, listen, they're just hurting you too bad. We got to cut them off. And it's like, 4 months to the midterms, we should not be taking people who were literally some of Trump's biggest supporters and were on the campaign trail for him and had millions of followers and calling them bad names on Truth Social and lumping anybody who disagrees with the current status of the administration. The propaganda right is using that to put everybody in. We have to work the dog thing out. I got to put the dog door in there.
You think Winston's always good boy?
Yeah. This is okay. Well, we have our hiccups. Thanks, Ella. Take the dog out. Jeez.
Thanks, Ella.
I'm telling you, the first time I've been on video, but yeah, they're trying to build a ghetto for the free thinkers on the right, and it's it may help them somewhat, but it's not going to help them do better in the midterms. I don't think. It's like,
well, you and I have talked a lot about this. That's purification through subtraction, and this is a game of addition. This is the tactic the Democrats took in the age of Trump, and it didn't work out well for them. So why on earth would they think it's going to work out well for differently? I would say, for Republicans and the Republican cause, and when it comes to this issue specifically, because I don't think people have gotten this through their head. I think, even Israel as a nation state, I've read government reports, they understand what position they're in. What I don't think they understand is that your money cannot get you out of this. Like you said, like, it's not going to work. This browbeating tactic, whatever you want to call it, it only works if you're trying to crush a small group of dissenters, but not if those dissenters represent the majority voice. And that's like, so, when you're going after Tucker, who holds the position, the poll the White House shared today. Well, guess what? That's Tucker's position. So when you're going after him, you're not making your case with that majority. You're not helping your case at all. What do you think? I mean, you see something like they did today. You think this is a change in signal, or what do you think? You think this is the president maybe trying to lay some groundwork, or just frustration?
I really don't know. I don't know what is going on behind the scenes, but I have to imagine the ticking of the clock is getting louder and louder and louder. And again, given infinite time and money, we could easily repress Iran into compliance. The problem is that we're running out of strategic petroleum reserves. Hey, there it is.
Put up rocket boy.
There it is. Yeah, thanks, man. Wow.
He's had your back the whole time, man. So did so did basically everybody. Everybody had your back the whole time.
I got to give you guys something for that $20. You want to see something cool? Look, I got a second camera. Look, here's my B shot. Let's see if this works.
It looks good. It looks good.
Can you see this is Pulse of Democracy?
And I was I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up. That should basically be the pollster's Bible. Like, that should be the pollster's Bible. And I think it's important for other people to understand, everyone watching to understand that Mark he's a good egg. I mean, if you're a public opinion pollster and you're one of the good ones, you really do take this seriously and you understand what George Gallup was trying to say. You know, the founders were concerned that as the country grew, representation would effectively be impossible, and it would be very difficult for constituents to be able to tell their expanded representation what they believe, and then, you know, stock, you know, what they call them, stock jobbers, and, you know, were effectively special interests, would drown you out. And that Gallup, you know, George Gallup believed it was the job of the public opinion pollster to step into that void. And without that, this system gets problematic. And that's so you take it. It's more than a civic duty. It's like an obligation. You have to take it that seriously. It's almost sacred. And I think what you and I are describing, and like you said, I'll jump on the bandwagon when it comes out too. And then we can all pummel away with freedom, you know, and throw our bolos at people. But for now, I think I'll just say this to try to be a little bit careful. I think, you know, we had media and all this other influence in the, you know, more than decade. I've been a public pollster trying to push back on left-wing pollsters being dishonest. I guess what I didn't see coming, Mark, was the influence of PACs and the decline in the industry and how it used to work, and how it used to make people money, and how you used to be able to do this fairly and independently, right? Truly separated from outside influence. The PAC issue, it didn't start immediately after Citizens United, but people are starting to find like they're making this like a well-oiled machine, and they're figuring this out, and they have. So it has corrupted basically every pollster, almost every almost every pollster has been, their integrity has been compromised, because folks, some people, you have to understand, don't be too hard on them in some cases anyway, because there really is no money in this. If doing it honestly, there is no money. There's just not.
There's not,
you know.
But don't take the job.
Yeah, so but that Laura said, then don't take the job, and I think that is true as well, because the only reason why you would do it or should do it is because you truly do believe in Gallup's vision. You believe in what he was arguing, what he was trying to build. And that's why that book should be the Bible for every, like the professional Bible for every public opinion pollster.
I'll wait until after I finish to put a pin on this, but I think what you and I are doing is kind of an extension of Gallup in the modern internet age, because integrity has degraded so much in every institution that the old Weatherman pollster that people wanted, you know, dispassionate arbiter of like the numbers with absolutely no commentary, doesn't work anymore, because literally all of those people will be corrupt. And that's how the PACs work. It's focused more now, in my opinion, on these gatekeepers of somebody who knows somebody that controls the money, and just like be a bro and wink, nod, wink, wink, and you'll get on the gravy train. But I think what we're doing is like, okay, we can do the numbers. We can separate our biases. We can be objective about our polling. And I personally don't want anything to do with any party at all, because they're all corrupt. They don't represent the people. But I'm very happy making objective decisions about political policies. It's like, if this is good for America and it's a conservative thing, then yeah, I will support that, and I will talk well about Trump doing that. But it's like, okay, well, the second he forgot that policy or isn't going to represent that anymore for the American people, I'm out. Like, you just, like, that's it. You know, like, I wasn't here for you. I was here for the American people, and you just screwed them over. And, you know, it just so happens that most of those right now are conservative principles, but it's like not in the way that the Republican Party talks about them as a cudgel. It's like, we need new conservative principles for people who intend on leading the American people conscientiously to get behind and launch a new political movement. I think that really has to happen. I won't call it America first, but obviously Americans need to be put first. It should be Americans first. That's what it should be called, right? Maybe we have to. I don't know, right?
Slight little tweak. Yeah, because I mean, the MAGA term is, I think it's reached its maturity. And I think that's, I just don't know how you move forward with that. I'm sure you probably agree. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the same numbers. I just don't know how I've never seen a movement shrink so quickly in identification. Meanwhile, socialism, or identifying as a socialist in some way, shape, or form, has risen, and you're going to find Republicans. And I think this is what has been so problematic with what we've seen over the last 2 years. It's going to be impossible, not increasingly difficult. After this, it will be impossible to argue, to make the free market capitalism argument authentically if you're on the right and you shilled for the last 2 years, because they're okay with corporate welfare. They're okay with welfare for their favorite nation state that they may or may not be more loyal to than the United States of America. They're just not okay with welfare to struggling Americans who are the victims of their stupid policy. And that's not going to fly, Mark, with this new, especially with this new generation. You've done a lot of work like me on the younger generation. You know, it's like, look at how the right is. I'm curious to get your thoughts on how they're reacting to young people. You saw Caroline Levitt attack younger people. It's like, these kids just voted for him 2 years ago, bro. They just voted for him 2 years ago. And now they're
60% approval rating under 40, 60% he had in the middle of March. And they were like, please, bro, please be a dictator. Like, we are begging you to like roll over these judges. Like,
just don't listen to these guys. Like, we actually pulled the decision where that judge ordered him to turn that plane around, and under 45, and because it's under 45 in our polling, or 30 to 39 and below, they basically said ignore him. What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? Just ignore him. Who's got the army again? Who's got they're Jacksonian. They're very, very Jacksonian, So I mean, look, so I
got a stunning number I'll drop. And again, former Rasmussen head pollster, some of these numbers, like, there's some problems going on with the daily methodology, but I won't repeat them if I'm not confident with them. And this one is a stunner. Which is a better system, capitalism or socialism? Capitalism loses 50%, 49% now. But listen to the age numbers. 65 and older, 65 to 16. 18 to 29, 27% to 43.
Jeez.
So the capitalism number by age brackets go 27, 34, 44. So it doesn't even get over 50 until 50 years old. So it's not serving the people.
And they're not exactly capitalists. Like, these boomers, they're not capitalists. It's like, or at least they're not when it doesn't.
Well, what you're hearing is a generational interpretation that Zoomers and younger millennials, when they hear capitalism, they hear me giving up my resources and working hard so the boomers can make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Whereas the boomers are hearing, keep those millennials working and slaving away so I can keep my stock market prices up. I can keep my housing prices up. And again, for everybody out there, we're not talking about all boomers, all Zoomers, anything like that. It's about a general, the generations are interpreting our economic and political systems differently. And the people that are coming in are interpreting as they have been getting screwed. They're the ones being sent off to die for stupid wars. They're the one being sacrificed for massive illegal immigration coming in. It's not stealing a boomer's job. The boomer's got another extra gardener to work with. Or somebody else to work on their little construction project out back. Go look at who it is picking up people at the local Target, the local Walmart, when they're out there gathering for jobs. It ain't your Zoomer. It ain't your millennial. They can't afford a car anyway. Whereas your Zoomers and millennials are the ones, they're getting denied employment. And it's even worse. One of the things you've been documenting, it's not just the economy. It's everything in their life sucks. They can't get a date. They can't get married. They can't have kids. They're told that they're male toxicity. If they like the Odyssey or like a cartoon or like a comic, it's getting butchered by Hollywood to say bad. Yeah. Everything in their lives is getting stepped on, and it's radicalizing them. That's why they're the rise of both the far left, far right is growing. People that want authoritarian solutions, people that want strongman solutions, and the people that are very results oriented. And if the right doesn't deliver for them, they will turn to a Mamdani. They will turn to someone that's hardcore that says, "I will deliver what you want." In 3 years, we're referring to each other as "Hello, Comrade Mark." "Hello, Comrade Richard." I mean that's where we're going.
Yeah, 100%. I'm gonna put this up real quick. It's hard. It's always hard to see these when I put them, but this is the latest in political identification. And we actually wrote this in Burn It Down. We showed this that MAGA, let's just look at the right. Here's what it looked like in the Trump coalition that elected him. Not what it is right now, because MAGA's gotten older. The young kids are basically out, You'll find a lot of them in this question, which is, did you previously identify as MAGA or America First, but no longer do? If you look at the age, you can see among those who said yes, 25 to 75, 18 to 29, it's only 5 to 95 among 65 plus. So that's where all the young MAGA kids have gone. They're now in I previously identified, but they're still holding, like Robert said, they're still holding those more, I don't know if I would call them radical. I guess I just call them non-traditional, views. And then when it comes to the Democratic Party, same thing, 30 to 44, 63% Democratic Socialist, 10% Socialist. When you compare that to 65 plus, it's just 44% combined. And then 18 to 29, 14% Socialist, the highest out of any, compared to just 1% who said that among 65 plus. And 18 to 29 was 56% Democratic Socialism, on top of the 14 who said, I'm just a straight socialist. So that's 70%. 70% of Democrats who are 18 to 29 view themselves as socialists. So this is the path before us. You either get something that's like a MAGA, what it originally purported to be, or you're going to get a Mondani. That's it. I mean, there's no other road to go down. It's pretty clear to those of us who have been doing this for a while and watching it. I don't know why. And actually, I was going to say, I don't know why it's not that clear to some, but the truth is, even among the donor class, Mark, we're with over the weekend, it is clear to a bunch of them, maybe not to most of them, but it is clear to a bunch of them. They just don't care. They just don't care.
It's been teed up perfectly for the socialists, in my opinion, because you look back and you see Barack Obama, and it's like, okay, he did some socialist-like bills, but he wasn't an open, naked socialist, and people were starting to get familiar with the term. And then the Tea Party happened, and I think the Trump movement really kind of began there. A really big blowback to the bailout bills. People were upset with the level of taxation. They wanted a new economy. There was anger at moral hazard. There was anger at all the rich people, and the socialized losses, I think, was a lot of it, right?
Yeah. And
then you had this movement, and it essentially got co-opted by the establishment. And then an outsider came in and said, no, let's take the parts of this that work. An absolute uncorruptible platform. I mean, I don't need money. I'm not part of the establishment. And we're picking all the things that are for the American people, taking them off the table for the Democrats, and basically running against this neoconservative old hag. And, Trump wins. And then it's like, okay, well, the system fought him, and he came back, and there was even more of an impetus because people were voting out of necessity, not out of curiosity. I probably what they were doing in 2016. And his platform became even more intense, right? We're talking about golden ages and retribution and revenge and a lot of positive visions about America and how we're saving it from insane Joe Biden. And Joe Biden did a lot of insane things. And then it's like, okay, the entire thing collapses, right? So it's like the Tea Party didn't take off because we have these terrible establishment people there. Well, okay, let's get an avatar. The avatar did it. And it's like, okay, well, what's the next step? How are you going to do this again? What's the logical continuation of the MAGA movement falling apart? And obviously people are looking at JD Vance, and there's a lot to love. He's a true economic populist. He's a well-spoken individual. He's intelligent. He could be a leader, but I don't know if the people have it in them anymore. It's like, how much more can you get kicked in the nuts over and over again, just let down by people who say they're going to put Americans first and just fail, just completely 100%.
And Robert, in 2016, the left had their own version of it. It was Bernie. They rob it from, they rob him. I mean, just come on. They just completely robbed Bernie Sanders in 2016. And by the way, there was even a federal case. It didn't come to light, I believe, until 18. Maybe it was even 19. But the feds went in and rounded up a bunch of people who were involved in this election fraud scheme. And if you look into the actual case, you'll see that It impacted Bernie Sanders. They screwed him in Pennsylvania because he won miraculously in Michigan and really caught them off guard. Do you remember that during the primary? He beats Hillary Clinton by a hair, but he still beats her when the polls showed Clinton plus 20 in Michigan, folks. And then we didn't know it at the time, although everyone felt something was off, but they go in and they steal Philadelphia from them. And later people get indicted, including election judges, by the way. Later they get rounded up by the FBI and indicted. That hurt Bernie. But he winds up losing. He comes back in 2020 and Barack Obama steals it from him essentially by burning up the phones and telling everybody in media, you're going to get on board with this plan, calling up James Clyburn, making sure Clyburn gets on board with it. And he does. But all sorts of party folks he's calling. And he basically convinces them we can't win with Bernie. So we need to now get that message across to the Democratic voter. We have 2 weeks to do it. I want nonstop Bernie can't win all over the news. And it works because, and we were polling it. It was actually really sad to watch. People were telling us they wanted Bernie on Super Tuesday states. They wanted Bernie. They agreed with Bernie's position more than they agreed with Joe Biden's position on everything from healthcare to the economy and everything. But they're going to vote for Joe Biden because they don't think Bernie Sanders can beat Donald Trump. So he gets robbed like that. Then 24 comes along, obviously, and Joe Biden is clearly not in. They lied to even the Democratic voter. Joe Biden is senile, and they move Harris into the. My question, I guess, is: you even think that Democrats are going to play this game anymore? Like there are people on X earlier today saying, no, they're going to go more moderate and then thread the needle. I don't know, bro.
They're going to run like Trump. So what they're going to do is subject to the constraints of the Democrat Party, meaning that there's certain things that they can't go after. One of them is probably Israel. Let's just say it. Like the Democrat.
Well, that's why I was seeing. That's why I was asking, like, what do you think they're going to do with Israel, Robert? Like, what are you going to do with Israel?
The same thing they do with the tranny stuff. They're going to address it as little as possible. And I think what they're going to do is the stuff that Ossoff's doing, which is being a little bit more positive about America, talking like an economic populist, taking the stuff from Trump's platform that was okay, maybe saying like, hey guys, like we went a little too far on the border, but they're not going to like scream socialist. Like, I don't think Ossoff calls himself a socialist. He's going to say like common sense, fiscal responsibility, and passing bills that help the younger generations. It's going to be a whole lot of generalizations. And they're probably going to win on it. And the right has nobody to blame but itself. Pushing amnesty 4 months from a midterm election when people voted for mass deportations, that's a humiliation ritual at this point.
What do you think, Robert?
I was going to ask Mark the sort of my last question because I got to hop off, make sure a brief gets filed. But you've been pointing out somebody's got to deliver. So let's assume Trump does not fix this. Vance isn't able to course correct and isn't able to deliver. Assume Democrats go in and also fail to deliver, kind of like the Labour Party did in the UK. What we've seen in the UK, what we're seeing in Europe, is the dramatic rise of independent and third-party movements. It seems to me the appetite for that is going to be off the charts. It seems to me Trump was the last chance for Republicans to deliver. Maybe Vance can somehow course correct in between to get it done, but that's kind of it on the Republican side for the time being. And this is going to be the only Democratic chance. 2028 is going to be it. If they don't deliver, what's the probability of we get new parties starting to surge in America?
So I'll try not to be the doomer black pillar that everybody says I am. We have to acknowledge here that we're on the cusp of a generational tipping point, and that politics is going to get freaking weird. We're going to see political horseshoes. It could be over things like Israel, because you got your older establishment Democrat types like Schumer and Rahm Emanuel and those kind of people who are staunchly pro-Israel. And they're probably going to form ranks with some of the older Republican people. And then everybody under 45 is going to be like, no. And those people tend to be more economically liberal. And they kind of tend to be in some ways more socially conservative than the older generation as well. So a lot of people have been talking about how you're going to see some like weird thing where it's like the Muslim tangential people get together with the Catholic folks, and you're going to see new political movements. But as for how the next cycle plays out with third parties, like when Elon Musk talked about the American Party, we tested it and it didn't get much support, and it took all of the support from Republican. And so what's going to happen is the third party, especially if it's done by somebody charismatic who somebody like a Tucker Carlson is going to get a lot of followers. He's going to pull it all from Republicans. He's going to make the Republicans lose. And that's it. Like, I don't see any path to him for victory other than he runs as an independent. The Republican drops out and backs him. And I just don't know how it happens, because you'll have these people that just refuse to vote for him on principle because they say he's funded by Qatar or something, right? So but I think that's healthy, right? It's like, I don't want to get put in a Democrat gulag. I hope they're sane. If they've learned anything, it's like, be less crazy, folks, because like you're, they're going to get the youth vote, and the youth don't want crazy right now. They want order. That's what the youth are looking for. And so if that happens, like, I'm not going to be Nick Fuentes and tell people to go out and vote for Democrats, but a lot of people are not going to vote for Republicans, and Republicans are going to probably get a generational shellacking. Does that happen all in the midterms? Like, I don't know. And we'll see what kind of dark horse outside candidates show up. But like, it's healthy for democracy to have these conversations. Like, Byron Donalds won't even debate somebody who everybody in Florida says, this guy's got great ideas. Even DeSantis says that. And so I think you're increasingly going to see those frictions within the Republican Party, and it's going to have a civil war. It's going to tear itself down over basically one or two issues. And that's like corporatism and a little postage stamp in the Middle East.
My little friend, I know, so obviously a lot of TPUSA people, and the young TP guys in Florida, man, I get constantly, hey, what do you think? You think Fishback's got a chance in Florida? Like, they hate the idea that someone's just being coronated, and I don't even think they would normally care, but it's just the place we're at right now, guys, where they like a lot of Fishback's ideas. He's speaking toward their economic, concerns, if that's not even a strong enough word. And they just feel that Byron Donalds is not and will not and just doesn't get it, So, and it's a shame, too, because you would think Byron Donalds would be like a millennial leader, and, we can have some of these transformational candidates on the right, but they're just not. They're just not being that. They're turning into like neocons that there's no constituency for anymore. And even the White House knows that now. So I don't understand what direction they think they're going in. Like, do you not think you can survive without Miriam Adelson's money? This is ridiculous, which is why, by the way, Vance is such a viable option going forward, because he does have an alternative. So Vance, for people who don't understand, like the Republican donor class, they all are neocons, and that has been a big problem. And we talked about this on the show last couple of weeks. It's been a big problem. That's why you constantly get betrayed, because when elections are won, man, Barnes had to go. He messaged. See you later, Rob. Oh, by the way, hold on one second. Sportspicks.locals.com, sportspicks.locals.com. And I'm not sure if there's any tickets left to the event. Laura, can you text him and ask? I know he's got a brief to send, but I don't want to pitch it if there's no tickets left. I put it up on the screen in the beginning of the show, and I'm not sure there is. But that's always why when Republicans win elections, the voter gets betrayed, because this donor class is not in lockstep with the base. The way on the left, they have differences, but on big things, Mark, they really don't. Like, there's not like the Republicans, where you have Republicans. What is the number one thing they want? They want things like deportations. They want accountability. They want, this is foreign policy is a big disconnect. But the donor base is over there, like, the Bill Ackmans and some of the other Republican donors, Mary Madelson, they're over there funding cheap labor. They want cheap labor. They want amnesties. Look at what they're doing with the agriculture bill right now. He said he accidentally hopped off early. It was an accident, but he said, I got to do the brief anyway. Just let me know if there's any tickets, Robert. And, you guys should definitely go try to get a ticket if you can, because this is going to be a banger of an event. He said there are a few. So 1776lawcenter.com. I'll put it up actually right now, because this is going to be a banger event. And I think we're going to have, I don't want to say it because, I don't want to say it, but I think we're going to have, sportspicks.locals.com, sportspicks.locals.com. But here it is. Go to 1776 Law Center, and I will put the link in the description and also into the chats. This is going to be a banger. The roster is large. We're driving again. I can't believe this, Mark. We just did the DC drive. I mean, the Bedminster drive. We're going to go and do now we're going to do the Chattanooga drive. Laura likes road trips, man. She likes the road
I
trips.
hate flying.
She doesn't like
Yeah.
flying. It's not like she's scared of it, but she just doesn't like it. And
I get the bad motion sickness.
she doesn't like, she gets like motion sickness, but also, if you're a girl and you have like 20 dresses that you don't want to get wrinkled, it's a pain in the ass. TSA wrecks
Not
them.
only that, but I bring steamers.
Yeah, she brings a steamer.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, bro. But I look good all the time. So what can I,
Preach it.
Yeah, TSA. I have this thing called the bankroll, which actually is how you roll the suits up. You put it in, and then it rolls up around the suitcase. It's really cool. And TSA opens it up all the time and wrecks it, like constantly. So do you remember the last one? Oh my god!
It looks like. Did you ever take like cellophane and crinkle it?
You ever crinkle cellophane?
Spread it out?
Man, how the hell did you do this to my suit? What did you do? I mean, it was so bad. Even the
Drove over it with the luggage car, probably.
Yeah. I
All
mean,
we needed was tire marks.
yeah, but it's Saturday and Sunday, guys, in Chattanooga. Go get your tickets if you can. You will absolutely have a great time. There's so many people coming. It's up here. Look at that. I mean, the whole behavior panel's coming. Viva's coming. Representative Renown's coming. I mean, yeah, my wife's really looking forward to it. She's never met the behavior panel guys live and like in real life, and she loves the show. And I don't know if Robert, I mean, Mark, I don't know if I ever told you, bro, but I did, and this is getting off topic, but locals knows, I saw something, and I think I've seen something a couple of times, but I mean, there was one incident, which was, it broke my brain, and I started like trying to like talk to like Lou Elizondo and all these guys, about it, because I was like, look, just tell me if like we have something that can do this, like, or did I really just see up close what I think I just saw? And I didn't know. And eventually people get wind of it and it starts getting around on X, like, yo, the People's Pundit had like an experience, right? So eventually I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to make a thing out of this now. So the behavior panel guys are like human lie detectors. So I'm like, I'll subject myself to the behavior panel, so yeah. So I did, and great episode. Eric Hunley moderated it, and they peppered me with all these questions to like get there's a whole to get a read, like there's a whole their techniques, their books are really cool too. But they determined, I'm telling the truth, that they were unanimous. I'm telling the truth. I saw what I said I saw, which for people who don't know what I'm talking about, I saw a giant triangle the size of what looked like a friggin' floating city. Like it was huge. And it could bend light and basically like hide itself. And then eventually it took off. It tipped its nose up and took off into space, not into the sky, into space, and was a pinpoint in the sky within the blink of an eye. And not only did I see it, I mean, we were all coming home for dinner. It was a family dinner. My kids, they saw it, and it was Mark, it was insane. Like, and you could see, I eventually drove to a point where I got directly under it, or like as under it as I could. And because it was moving very slowly, and stopping slowly. It was crazy. So I was able to catch up and get under it. Looking up in this thing, it looked like there was like windows in it, and like it was brother, it was crazy, but anyway, I did start going around trying to find guys from like ATIP I could talk to and everything, and said, like, is there something that we have that is can explain this? And I mean, they basically told me, no, that's an alien spaceship, like their aliens are real, and that's an alien spaceship. And it broke my brain, it just so I went into like this I don't know, man. I just started diving in in a crazy way possible. I don't know if you saw it. I'm over here doing studies on disclosure now. It's so interesting, Yeah,
I saw. And I haven't had an experience, but I definitely, just mathematically, it's obvious, right? Like, yep, they're out there. And then
that's the way I feel too.
There's things I've talked about on some of the streams. Like, I'm very convinced by some of the Nazca mummies, the full-size ones, are pretty interesting. But I thought what was going to happen is our government was going to like tell us, like, hey, like, got these things. There was supposed to be disclosure. Mm-hmm. And that kind of just like died. And I looked on Reddit to see what came out. And I don't think it was that many compelling things. I think there were a few, but certainly no smoking guns. No. And so one has to wonder if those disclosure drops weren't some kind of distraction for other stuff that was.
That's what Bannon's always worried about. You know, when I did that study, he loves this stuff and he thought it was cool, but he is worried, like, you know, that this is like a distracting thing. He was in the first administration, and there were talks in the first administration but you know, unbeknownst to us, because we didn't know about ATIP, we didn't know about it all until New York Times broke it. But Steve Mnuchin, as then the Treasury Secretary, called the guy who became later the leader of the program that succeeded ATIP. And he basically said, look, I need you guys to tell me if the president goes to the microphone and says, look, we're not alone and they're visiting planet Earth. We don't know that much about them, but it's real. What will the economic impact be? So I do know, and in fact, I just got showed this morning, that there are studies going on to see, there's concern that maybe I'm trying to be careful here. They're wondering how much credibility the government has in a disclosure announcement. Like, they're literally worried. And honestly, I polled some of this. I did. I mean, like basically, like you and I,
people's throats, you know, it's like,
like you and I, you're going to have to show them a ship. You're going to have to show them a body or something. Like, there's about 20% who off the rip would just believe Donald Trump right off the rip. But I think part of that is his political capital has waned. So, you know, you just, you know, if he would have done it when he was still plus 15, 18 mark, I think it would have went a lot easier. But because he didn't, it's going to have to be something big.
He could have dissolved the entire circuit court system back in March,
could have,
like, of 2025. So,
I don't know if people want to hear this, man. I don't know if you want to hear it, but you and I both know that he could have broke everything, bro. He could have just said, "You're gone. I'm executive ordering you out of it. Like, you're gone. This agency's gone. I'm wrecking everything." And the people would have been like, "Yes!" They would have loved it. Now, I don't know.
Military tribunal, even, you know, like, bring in the military.
What do you think about what do you think about his announcement last week? What's your read? I'm talking about the election integrity stuff and the allegations, the Chinese against the Chinese, which you and I, by the way, just full disclosure, Mark and I were told, you know, a lot of this before, and we kept it on hush as much as possible. But you know, I really wanted to see some of the evidence. It's heavily redacted, a lot of it. But what do you think about the political impact of it?
Oof. And thanks everybody for the super chats, Jack. That was good. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so we polled on election integrity, and a lot, like many times, like 70 or 80 questions. And people always pretty much thought that the 2020 election was stolen. It got up to 66% that were at least somewhat concerned the outcome of elections would be affected by cheating right before the 2024 election. A lot of them were left people too. You know, it wasn't just Trumpers. It was a lot of people who were just like, you know, this mail-in ballot stuff is stupid, and everybody can, you know, like we've seen enough evidence. The big lie is not a lie. And it was one of the major institutional trust problems going into 2024. One of the reasons that Trump won. So now we haven't heard hear about it. And it's like, okay, well, Trump has been huge on this topic, got into presidency. Now we're going to forget it. There's been no arrests about anything. And, you know, if he had come out a lot sooner and said this stuff, I think at that point it would have been cathartic to people. At this point, it's like, well, you know, it's too late. 4 months to the midterms. It's probably going to get stolen if people really do steal our elections. You just made some really major implications about China, our biggest trading partner. He didn't really like resolve any of those things or provide any. There was no closure. There was no direction forward. Just a little sprinkle of, well, we're going to investigate some more, and there might be some indictments, and we're going to do some executive orders and stuff.
Yeah,
just not enough. It's like, and my understanding is he really wanted to make that speech. This has been his own personal endeavor, and right on, he should, but his government, in my opinion, isn't really supporting him, and he's not making things better. So if he does some non-legislative solutions to this and goes in the election, like, first off, you're undermining the midterms. You're going to have a lot, if the Republicans win, a lot of Democrats are going to be like, see, Trump was messing around with the machines or this and that. And then you're also pointing out that the Republican Party isn't with you on election integrity because they're not like,
Brother,
So
if the threat is so real, why isn't the Republican Party
Yeah.
passing the SAVE Act? This is the risk.
Yeah, and you and I know why that is, because they want elections to be stealable. But for your average voter that's got to consume the Republican slop, what you're seeing is just inconsistency after inconsistency. And I think for Trump, inconsistency has been his major problem. So he talks about like mass deportations, but never from like a wage perspective, always from a crime perspective. And then he'll talk about how hardworking some of them are. And then he'll say China's bad and has been stealing from us, but we want all of the students. And then they're stealing our elections, but we're going to go over there and beg them for help from Iran. It's just like one inconsistency after another. Like, I go to McDonald's, I care for the little man. And then like now he's saying, well, I don't even like small businesses. And
America's
don't talk
got
to me
no
about
talent.
the affordability hoax. It's just it's a mess, and
There's no talent.
discipline.
We need H-1B visas because there's no talent in America.
Yeah,
I mean, that might have been the worst thing I've ever heard him say. I mean, that was so bad. After him being one of the best cheerleaders for America and the American worker I've ever seen. At one point, in the height of Trump 1.0, I was like, this guy's a better cheerleader for the economy than even Ronald Reagan was. And they both had that gift, which is that they understood that, the real secret is to just unchain the American economy and let them do their thing because they're amazing. And that's, that's the secret that both him and Reagan understood better than any other politician. But the cheerleading too was such a huge boon. Dow, again, I recently pointed this out. The CEO of Dow Chemical called him the greatest president for the economy since the founding fathers. And I mean, it's just such a bold statement from somebody like that, And now
we've never had bigger wealth inequality. Like
that's
100%.
right. And now here we are. Exactly. I agree with you, Philly Patriots. I don't think I agreed more with Cernovich's take on Tucker and Kent, although I didn't think Tucker Kent would win. I like Mark. I think they would just completely obliterate the Republican Party. It would be Ross Perot on steroids. They'd probably get in the 30s. Republicans would be like 20% vote getters. It would be pathetic because that would mean like somebody like a Rubio or a Nikki Haley would be the nominee, something ridiculous like that. And they would be obliterated. And Tucker would come in second, probably. But it wouldn't matter because Democrats would win with like 42% of the vote, like Bill Clinton did. Although I'm getting more and more to the point, like what Mark said before, that it's healthy. And I think the Republican Party probably needs to be punished. And the problem with the idea of reforming it or using the Republican Party as a vehicle through which real change can be implemented, and we can confront this generational shift that's going to happen, is that Trump actually strengthened the establishment in the Republican Party. And you know what I mean? And you can't beat a party or reform a party from the inside when the establishment is strong. So unfortunately, that's why Trump was able to take it over in 2016, guys, because it was weak, badly weak. So I agree with you.
Problem's not in the candidates. It's not the elected representatives, in my opinion. It's the flows of capital.
Yeah.
And so that's my biggest fear, is that you'll see a third party or a Tucker independent run. And maybe if it's a third party, you'll have challengers in all these states, and they'll cause Republicans to lose a few more congressional seats or something. And it's like, okay, you'll wipe out some establishment Republican, deserve to be wiped out, teach them a lesson, and maybe the introspection will be there. But it's like all the same donors are sending all the same money to all the same PACs and all the same gatekeepers and making sure all the same vendors get that money.
Yeah.
And so you still get the same people who have the incentive to play the same ball. That's it. Yeah. And I said this to JD last June. I said, well, the Republican Party needs to stand for economic populism. It doesn't. And you're not going to fix that until you create a new donor pipeline. And unfortunately, somebody's got to pony up the money. I think this would be
I got someone in mind. I'm working on it. You know who it is. Yeah, I'm working on it.
But the problem is, the second somebody sees that $1 billion check or something, they're just going to start salivating about all of the grift that they could have off of that. And so what they really need is outsiders.
Yep, that's true.
They need an army of like literally tech startup people,
Or he's going to have to gatekeep that himself and put like legitimate people in charge of making sure that that grift is not allowed in. You know what I mean? Or at least minimized as best you can.
The Doge should run this 100%.
Yeah,
they need people who are political. I mean, they need people like you and me to be like, hey,
truthfully,
here's what people want. Make sure that the money doesn't get stolen and get spent on the right things. Yeah.
This is a great idea, Robert. I actually think that Robert may have already started that process, but if not, I think it's a great idea. I'll reach out to the University of Maryland and try to do that. What he's saying is to bring the people on who did the poll, and they have been doing this poll for years, Mark, and to talk about why it's so hard to poll the Middle East and what they do differently, which is some of it that I already know, but it would be good to hear it from the horse's mouth.
I'll tell you why. You know why? Because that Gammon poll that you talked about in the beginning, I asked the AI to go up one funding level because there's this organization called
the screen.
Oh, hold on. I don't even know.
If you can send me the link to the AI's response, or if you can, or just read it. It's all right. But like, I agree.
It's not a complicated thing here. The Abdurrahman Boraman Center for Human Rights in Iran.
Yeah.
One level up funding source, the National Endowment for Democracy.
That's what I told them. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure we got that far down, but yeah, the National Endowment for Democracy, guys, that's the end of the line. I mean, that is not a legitimate institution. Okay, it is a CIA run regime change. Democracies don't war with each other slop organization. It is not credible at all. And even I can't show it, but I've even read documents myself from the CIA that was shown to me from a senator's office who was investigating not just the media's use of propaganda polling, but he went down that path first and then found a lot of these so-called polling entities that impact foreign policy. And he asked about Gammon. And I got to see redacted, but still nonetheless, certain documents. And the CIA is openly talking about how Gammon is garbage, but it's critical to what, and it wasn't the only one. They also were citing certain firms that they use to circulate in Western media for Eastern Europe. Yeah. And how they're not legitimate. And, there are legitimate polling firms. So when you're running your analysis, ladies and gentlemen, this is basically what the document says. When you're doing your actual intel analysis, you can use these firms because they're legitimate, but look out for these firms because these are ours and they're bullshit. And Gammon was one of them. So I'm like stunned reading this thing. And I'm like talking to one of the senator's guys who's running the investigation. I'm like, what do you need my opinion for? I think it says it right here, like you don't need a pollster, to explain. But I started talking to them over the media's use of propaganda polling. What do you think about this, man? Does Trump even care that roughly 10% of his voters feel like he betrayed us? At first, I think it's more than 10, but yeah. You don't think he cares?
No, I think like one of the other posters said something that resonated with me, and it was like, yeah, he's just responding to stimuli and something about his ego. And like, I don't want to be like cruel, but when I went to the White House, it was not what I expected to see. Like, it wasn't like walking into a finely tuned major corporation where there are strategic goals and there's all of these initiatives and there's meetings happening every day to further those initiatives. I mean, maybe they have that. I just didn't get that feeling. I got the feeling that Trump meets people and does things, and it's Susie's job to just like control that as much as possible and make sure nothing goes too off the rails, and that there was like no overarching like strategy or goals or anything. Like it wasn't like, hey, your meetings this afternoon all relate to Project Golden Path. It like wasn't like that, right? It was like, hey, some billionaires are coming by. They're going to talk about statues. And when I was talking to him, like, I wasn't the most impressive person there that day at all, but I guarantee you that I guarantee you that I had the most relevant information for him that day if he wanted to win the midterms in the And he wasn't really listening to me. He was thinking about Lindsey Graham's drive. He was thinking about the statues. Like, he was nodding at a lot of the stuff I said, but I just like didn't feel like he was totally engaging with it. And it's like JD Vance was trying to translate it into Trump speak, and I probably
Yeah, that
wasn't
sounds familiar.
you know, it's like
Yep.
at the end of the day, he just didn't want to learn what I had to say. And I think that what's happened is he had a lot of fight in him, and somewhere along the way that's gone. And now he wants to be a success, and he's very good at creating his own success criteria. And so he's created whatever criteria he needs to mentally feel like a success. And he's like not going to believe somebody that says you betrayed your people. He's going to blame that on Tucker Carlson. Or
Yeah, I hate to say, but I think that's probably really good. And you know, the picture that you painted is a familiar picture to anybody who knows, anyone who's done it. And then leading right up to the point of the vice president trying to translate. The only so far, and you know some of this, but I think you know it all actually. But the most effective I've been at all is when I was not told I was on speaker and I went on that rant. And that was like, I think the most most effective I've been is when, like, yeah, I mean, look, I'd be mad at him if I didn't love him so much, but he didn't tell me I was on speaker. And he was like, so what do people think about his relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu? What do people think about Bibi? And I'm like, what do you think? There are memes circulating with him bent over the podium by BB because it's not a fucking prevalent theory, prevalent idea. And I was like, they think he's BB's bitch, and I was like, went off, bro. And I didn't know it. And then I get a call, and then I see the Axios report, and I'm like, oh my God. And I was so embarrassed until everyone started calling me and telling me I was a legend. They're like, you're absolutely crazy. I said, don't give me any credit because I had no idea. I had no idea whatsoever. I learned after the fact. I was having boy talk. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I thought that's what we were doing. I thought we were having boy talk. Or as the president likes to say, locker room banter. And I thought it was locker, but it is honestly what you painted is it. Laura called it a living memorial. Like that's what he wants to do. He wants to just like have someone come in and tell him like the American people see that he's done this great thing or that great thing. And if it's they don't for any reason, it's somebody else's issue. It's someone else's fault, or something like and I do think I always thought he was authentic and he was legitimate. I think something, again, I'm not going to claim to get like in another person's head. I just feel like if you're him and you put your business, everything on hold, because I witnessed that speech in 2015. The moment he decided he was going to run, I knew it because I was 10 feet away from him and he's dead serious. And by the way, he retweeted me because he knew I caught the meaning of the message, which was you cannot have another Bush. You cannot have another Clinton. Our country can't survive it. It has to be somebody who is, independent and can, make the right decisions without worrying about being influenced. And he didn't take people's money like that in 2016. He went in there. He didn't even take a paycheck. All for what? To have his businesses under assault, the doors to Trump Tower chained, under 91 felony indictments, for what? Yeah. And by the way, nearly getting your brains blown out, a millimeter to the left, it would have been over. He would have looked like Jackie O with the, it would have just not been good. And if you're that guy, and then by the way, they kill your biggest supporter in public in broad daylight, so if you're that guy, Mark, you must along the lines. Even if, and I don't think he was afraid when he was nearly killed. I know what fear looks like. That wasn't fear. He was pissed that they tried to shoot him. You could see it. But he does care about his family a lot. Yeah. And when he's gone, what are they going to do to his kids? What are they going to do to his grandkids? What are they going to, that's what, so I part of me, as mad as I get sometimes, that's not even anger, as disappointed as I get, especially because your job and my job is to listen to people basically break down over it, and it's hard. It gets hard to listen to Americans in despair because they're like, he was supposed to help us. Like guys, it will wear anyone. It will wear on anyone. I don't care how tough you think you are. It will wear on you. as much as all that is true, I still sometimes find myself saying, well, what the hell did we expect? Like, I get where he's coming from. I understand, or at least as a man, I just don't think I would go that route. I don't personally, I don't know. And it's like easy for anyone to say it. I just don't think I would. I think I would probably try to see things out to the end, because unlike I think what he did, I would have concluded the only way out was through. And no matter what, no matter how much you try to play the game, they're still going to come for you, man. After, they're still going to make an example of you, or try. So you have to beat them, like truly beat them. And maybe he thinks all this wealth building is necessary for their survival, Mark. I don't know, but we've never seen anything like this before, man. No, but it makes the Bidens look like come on.
Like, I don't want to be conspiratorial, but in my opinion, something happened. And I could almost like pinpoint to a couple of months of where that would be. And I think he did about as good as you can expect in January and February. It's like he was never really going to be a dictator. And it's like, that's probably in hindsight what America needed. And that's a terrible thing for me to say, but
like a Caesar moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all looking at this potential wave of Democrat retribution, and it might be really fierce. We don't know how far they're going to push it. But I'm just saying that America was, like, in many ways, probably as primed as it's going to get for a long time for Republicans to violate the law.
Yeah.
And then we got to this period where, like, all of a sudden, Doge sort of, like, fizzled. And it was like when it started talking about auditing the Department of Defense, Lindsey Graham's favorite department, when it started to get out over its skis and expose hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud, Doge fizzled out. And I think Trump was still kind of okay, because I look back at how he was probably being advised during all the Liberation Day and the tariff periods. And I say to myself, well, he was taking very brave, bold actions for Americans. At least he thought he was, with the tariff stuff, right?
Yeah.
So then you have like this May, June, July period, and there was a lot of focus on the one big beautiful bill. I think he knew it was probably his only legislative chance to get anything through. Like, maybe not new, but it was like downside protection, right? So he needed that bill to pass. Then there was Midnight Hammer, and then the very first moment I knew personally in my gut that something was wrong with him specifically was the Epstein, I don't want them as followers.
Yeah.
That was like the wake up moment. So in like the April to that Epstein moment, in my opinion, something with him changed. Because I know that he said that after he saw polling that showed that Americans were like, what the hell? Like, what? This is egregious.
He sounded bitter and angry and like, like, how dare you question me? Yeah. Yeah, it was
so
not
something
good.
happened, in my opinion, right? And it's like, we'll never know what. And I don't know if a deal was made, a threat was made, but he's not the same Trump, in my opinion, as on the 2024 campaign trail. And I hear things, and I don't want to get accused of spreading this rumor, but I heard it from somebody else, and I don't know. But it's like he sees himself as a Mount Rushmore president.
Yeah.
And maybe not, but like he did that thing with the desserts at Bedminster where he's like, hey, here's Jefferson's ice cream and my cake. And it's like, the thing about those people and the thing about the American electorate is that each of those people instinctively understood the problems addressing, like, facing Americans at that point in time, and very specifically and single-mindedly fixed them. Like, focused on them, right? Did they do it the best way? Like, I don't know. We can like go back and look at at Roosevelt or whatever, or people might say stuff about Lincoln or whatever, but like the country was strained in an existential way. The president fixed it. Like, I think we were there with stolen elections, right? With the COVID, with the 100% debt to GDP ratio, not in wartime. Like, all of these things are existential threats to America. And it's like, no, it's the golden age, bro. Like, no, it's not. Really not.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say I agree with a lot of that. And by the way, folks, what Mark is talking about is, and the coin. I mean, you have on one side, Washington, 1776, July 1776. On the other side, Donald Trump, July 2026. I mean, I know it's some commemorative stuff, and I get some of that. But, I mean, I really do feel like he probably feels like, well, what the hell? What did I get out of this? Like I look at how much I've gone through, and what the hell did I really get out of this? So I got to make it what I want it to be, and that's it. And I think you're right. I think he's very good at making reality. Almost like from his marketing days. Like this is the way reality is going to be, and that's it. Whether you agree with it or not, it is what it is. Because I declare it that way, and that's all. Let me just blast through some of these. What percentage chance is there that Darlene Graham being taken out by a challenger? I think Darlene is very easily beatable. I think Lindsey Graham's performance was pathetic. That being said, I don't know that they have the brains to put, like I told Mark Halpern earlier today. Yes, she's very beatable. The question is, are they smart enough or selfless enough to beat her? Because what we have seen in the past is that everyone thinks they're the saving grace. They're the nation's, saving grace. It's got to be me. It's got to be the best candidate's not even running. I think I proved, like, without a shadow of a doubt, the results prove that I was right. You need a low country Republican in South Carolina, and otherwise you're just going to fight over the upcountry, and whoever's rhino is going to win the low country. So you need the low country before, you can even get into that question. And I don't know, man. I just think that there's no nostalgia there for Graham. I don't know. But, and then Jonathan Toby's comment, I think, is to, just, it says speaks for itself. But I think that she's beatable. I just don't have any, Mark, I just don't have any, like, faith that they understand what it takes to beat her. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it. But,
like, I don't know. Like, Fox News viewers have done stranger things, and like, I don't know how long how well that's going to last over the months. And, like, there was a touching moment of silence at Bedminster. Like, I don't know.
I mean, they very clearly, there were people even at our table. There were people who were like, oh, yeah, God, what a tragedy, and, oh, he was so great for the country. And, Mark, Laura, and I are like, oh my God. It's just, do you understand he's a 24-year incumbent and he couldn't crack 60% of the vote? Do you understand what that means? He got 57% of the vote. He lost most of his home country region to Mark Lynch, or a lot of it. And the only reason why he won is because there was no serious challenger for the upcountry and for PD, and that's it. And then he won in Central, so he just racked it up. But it wasn't a performance that would make you proud. If you're a 24-year Senate incumbent, he should have won 80% of the vote, guys. I mean, this is crazy. P-Pick and
I think a lot of it depends on how well the Iran conflict ages, because he's gotten a lot of, like, credit for that, and that could be, like, a double-edged sword.
I agree. Is there any way to force the media? Well, again, this goes to what Mark and I have been saying. Like, he's got to be willing to do certain things. He could have pulled ABC and NBC's broadcast license. Like, he could do that. Yeah. The broadcast license is a license to do business. It's not a license to do journalism. Journalism is protected by the First Amendment. Doing business is not. And they're getting sponsors and business deals and advertisers and all of that with that broadcast license. That is a privilege. He could do that. And again, I don't know why he doesn't want to do these things right now. And unfortunately, as Mark and I have tried to say, like, political capital, that's a real thing. And you can only go so far. There was at one point when he had a 60, because we had the same numbers you did, Mark. I mean, you have a 60% approval rating under 40. You could, I don't want to say that. I'm going to use that, but you could wreck institutions and establishments and easily walk away from it.
They wanted it. They wanted Social Security, Medicare picked apart. They wanted audits everywhere. These were 65, 70% positions. 72% of people were angry at the waste, fraud, and abuse. There was a mandate for mass deportations. There was a mandate for Doge. There was a mass majority mandate in the United States for literally austerity. Like, people wanted austerity. Like, what? Like, that doesn't happen. They tell you at the end of a republic, everybody votes for gimmies. And everybody was like, no, we want this to keep going. We've got to stop the bleeding. Biden almost killed us. Please fix everything. And it was like a golden age within 6 months.
Yep.
Without any reform process, without really any effort legislatively, and it's like, for all his bluster, like, Trump really hasn't fought the Republican.
And now we get clean reauthorizations of FISA.
Yeah, and the Israel
I mean,
NDA. Yeah, I mean, it's just like
this is crazy. It's almost like they want to do certain things, understand, like, and I think we heard that this weekend. Like, so well, the country's going nuts about the NDAA and merging with, basically our military, industrial complex with Israel. They know it's unpopular. They know it's going to hurt them. They just want to get it done before they can't do it anymore. And it's like, this is what they're choosing to spend their political capital on, other than what P. Pick and Cute is talking about, or more things like that. I mean, they could also go after them, P. Pick and Cute. They can also go after them with basically campaign finance violations. Like they're doing in-kind campaign contributions to certain parties. They never did that. So, obviously section whatever 302 or whatever is what a lot of people always talked about. And that is true as well. I mean, they could go that route. They could have done legislative or judicial reform, which is something Barnes isn't on anymore, but that's something him and I presented to them. You're not going to be able to hold anybody accountable until you deal with the corrupt judicial system that's been corrupted by ideology, ideological fanaticism. Yeah. And the founders they targeted the judicial system multiple times in the first 100 years of this country and taught it a lesson. They put it back in its place over and over and over again. We have to do big things like that. Otherwise, you're not really winning. You're not winning.
Well, from day one, with the egregious overreach by the courts, there were things in my understanding, and you probably talked to Robert a lot more than I did about this. There were things that Congress could have done with a simple majority, like pack the circuit courts, take people off of case duty, like major things that they could have done, even if they couldn't get the impeachment vote. And I wanted to run this by you in one of my darker, more conspiracy theory moments. I thought back to how the One Big Beautiful Bill played out, right? And obviously there was a big push because Doge wanted to codify all of these cuts into that bill. And we heard then, no, it wasn't going to happen. And then, no, there were hardly cuts at all. And then it's like, no, it's actually going to increase the budget. And at the same time, Trump was like very adamant the bill passed. He called it the One Big Beautiful Bill. He was working with Mike Johnson. Thing. Well, so when I think back to the leverage, and I think this is fair. I forget what all was in the bill, but I feel like it's fair to call the bill the Republican back scratching pork product, right? Like, wasn't it there? Like, this is what happens. They get out of office for 4 years. They're not in control. They don't write the budget bills. And then they get back in. They owe a lot of people favors, right? So in my opinion, the leverage was, well, we had Trump's tax cuts. They expired in 2025, the 2017 tax cuts. And I think probably the leverage was like, well, I understand that you have all these things that you want to pass, sir. But we have all these things that have already been written by the lobbyists. And listen, you really just need this tax cut. And so if we don't get what we want, you're not going to get your tax cut. It's going to destroy your presidency, right? And he didn't really have, I guess, in my opinion, the leverage to make that a more aggressive bill, right? You had people fighting all the different things they wanted to add to it. And then that's it. Like, once they got their bill, like why do anything, right? Like, that's the whole point of being in Congress. You got your bill through.
Yeah, I mean, I again, that was the Doge stuff. All that was among the most popular thing they could have done, and the way it's just part of that is even just communication, Mark. Like how they handled it. Like you said it yourself. It was like in 3 phases. Oh no, it's not. I mean, that was totally confusing to the common voter. Doge just failed, and they abandoned it. It doesn't matter what people say or what people try to the spin they try to put on it. That's what people think. And unfortunately, it's like the same thing with mass deportations. We gave them a very simple way to just make some couple reforms and continue with mass deportations and put the country's concerns at risk when they were, in a little bit of a PR trouble. And they ignored it because what took precedent? Iran and Israel just sucked all the oxygen out of the room, and it just completely disabled their messaging. Because the messaging during that period, that initial period you were talking about, was actually good. It was pretty good, and it just completely fell apart.
Oh, we were jumping up and down on streams back in January. There was all these things we couldn't believe Trump actually did.
Yeah,
and it's like, just once the initial executive orders went through, and then things started to fall apart really in April and May around the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Yeah.
He didn't get a
when the
bounce or
lobby
anything
rolled
from
in.
that, and then it's like Operation Midnight Hammer, and then his numbers turned negative, like, getting a
Totally
negative net
tanked.
approval after that, and then it's like, okay, then it was Epstein, then it was H-1B gate, then it was just, like, thing after thing after thing. And it actually happened before Charlie Kirk was killed too, which is
Yeah, and then a lot of these people who were able to take the helm, like that would never have happened if Charlie wasn't killed. But you know, I mean, he just was, he was an important voice. He listened to him, but like you said, even before he was killed, you could see the thing was going off the rails, man. It was. And Yard Hatch, what China stole, that's not just like I like Thomas Massey, but well, I like him as a guy. I don't always agree with what he does, but I like him as a guy.
yeah.
He's wrong about that. He said, like, you know, that anyone could get that data. They didn't, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean they hacked it. That's not true. What I'm looking at is multi-layered databases like the ones we use, which is, you know, a voter file vendor who then, you know, you can build a database with like the DMV information, consumer file information, donor file information, and you layer the databases. So you put attributes attached to each voter on the voter file. More attributes you know about them, the more you can learn about who they are and predict their behavior and all that. China had that. They didn't have voter files that they got from like the states. Maybe they did and they were able to get other information elsewhere, but it looks to me they compromised a voter file vendor. Mark, if you go through that,
Yeah.
that's what it looks like. And I think, I don't want to say it publicly, but I'm even pretty sure I may know which one it was.
The other one?
Yeah, the other one that, you know, we had a relationship with them for a while.
Yeah.
Like, but they were very like key with helping Democrats track real-time votes in certain states and with the absentee ballot information. So it smells like shit to me, man. It really does. You know.
Can we talk about Massey for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to
Just
put this up
because-
for pee and picking because actually we were going to do this. I don't know why we didn't do it pee and picking, but we went over the question about women. Okay.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I was bottled up for most of this, but I don't know him personally, and I don't feel obliged to defend him on a personal level, and so I don't care if he's a good guy or not. But he's done some things that are brave and are in the name of the American public, and he's doing things that other people wouldn't do that they said they would. Right? So he came out with the Epstein Transparency Act, which was one of the biggest, most pivotal pieces of transparency legislation we've ever seen, and the most transparent part of the Trump administration. Now, Trump signed it, but he had nothing to do with that bill, didn't want it. And it's actually a devious bill because any person that goes to the attorney general slot is making themselves a potential target by not releasing anything that they currently have from now to eternity. And so you know, Gallerin beat him. They threw 30 million Miriam Adelson dollars at him. And like, he's gone, he's over. And maybe he'll come back, but he's just a congressman, right? And so like what upsets me is that it's very obvious when you see the amount of Massey hate that is part of a propaganda operation because it's irrational.
Clearly.
It's like,
yes.
do you really hate him because he's exposing the Epstein stuff that Trump said he was going to do and didn't? Is that why you hate him? Or is it something other, right? Like foreign influence, mental cuckoldry, like what exactly is going on? And I think in most of those cases of irrational Massey hate, like that's what's going on.
Yeah,
You gotta go. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to make sure my daughter didn't leave something on. She did, but I'll run and lower it in a second. But just to answer your question with that, I mean, with me, I always argued with Charlie. I didn't like Massey at first. I thought he was a grandstander. And I thought, like, you know, I would say things like, you know, why do you care now? You didn't care about Biden when, you know, things were going on. So I understood that. And then also from the more libertarian point of view, some of the votes on immigration I didn't like. Some of the takes on immigration and positions I didn't like. I'm more nationalist when it comes to that. And Charlie would argue, and Charlie would argue, but he's an important defender of the Constitution. And also, we can't piss off the libertarian wing because they'll start running libertarian candidates everywhere and it'll destroy us. He's just a part of the reality of our coalition, and a Big Ten is a good thing. And I got that. And I didn't really understand, but whatever. But I didn't really understand it until now. And now I do, you know, now I do, because now I see the damage it's doing. I also just simply reject outright the idea of these dual citizen billionaires coming in and spending such an obscene amount of money on a single congressional district. I saw somebody the other day write, oh, you could add $100 million and you still wouldn't have won. That's bullshit. Total bullshit. You depressed young turnout with your policy. That sucked. And you beat Massey by driving up boomer turnout from people who thought factually incorrect things about him. I just told Tucker, I said, you know what, Tucker, here's a perfect example. Look at his so-called victory party, which had like 5 people at it. And there's one guy, boomer as can be, holding up a sign saying, Galrin, lower prices. And he has no idea that Galrin was for the Iran war, and literally told the journalist in one of the few public comments he ever made that he actually doesn't care about gas prices and it's worth it to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. That guy had no idea Galrin said that, because that's what $32 million buys you, Mark. You know what I mean? And that's what it buys you. And just for picking, my point of showing you this is that, because you said, not to sound ignorant, but aren't they the ones who were like anti-women, the mullahs, Well, the fact is the population is pretty women rights. It's not even women's rights. They wouldn't even call themselves anti-women. They would just call themselves Muslim, like that's it. Like this is but the point too is that the percentage of the population itself that's saying that women should have more liberty has been going up. Even as they've been under more assault. But so has the number of say that women should observe the Islamic hijab in public, but if they do not, is better not to confront them. So I guess what I'm saying is they're kind of in line with their population. 30% still say that women should be confronted if they're not wearing the hijab. So my point is the population itself agrees with the regime. So, it really reinforces the point Robert and I were telling you, which is that there was never going to be any uprising. There was never an appetite to cast off the regime. This is all lie. This is a lie. This is slop. This is neocon intel slop. And Trump sold this bill of goods, and it's bullshit. Netanyahu lied to Donald Trump. Mark Levin lied to Donald Trump. Mike Huckabee lied to Donald Trump. These people told him a fiction. And this is, Robert brought it up before when he asked Mark the first question. This is the importance of the president having factual, accurate data, honest data. You can't give the president garbage to make a decision off of, because he'll make a bad decision. It's not even his fault. You're giving him the wrong data. We've now had 2 stories, and there's a lot more to come, but 2 stories, one about Maha, one about Epstein, where the president was showed fudged numbers. And there was a real poll, and then there was the poll Donald Trump saw. Well, it's hard to lay all the blame on the president's feet if he doesn't have the correct information. I'm not saying I'm not defending him if he made, the incorrect decision at that point. I'm just saying it's important to take it in context. We now have 2, and believe me, Mark and I know of many other instances that they are not isolated incidents. This is a major problem, including one Mark and I have intimate knowledge on. And already we can see in the House agriculture bill, it's already bleeding through. I mean, you would think the dumbest thing Republicans could try to do going into a midterm where they're already not favored is pass an amnesty or any kind of sneaking form of it. It's the president's was being told, and I'll leave it at this for now, that not only will amnesty not hurt him, it may be the only way that Republicans can win the midterms. I mean, Mark, I know that's coming. It's coming. So, I mean,
there's that story that you probably mentioned and teased that I don't know. I got to talk to the journalists and see if it's coming soon, but
they do their homework over there, and I know it's part of a much bigger story, but they are also under immense pressure to capture and kill. So we'll see what happens. And the capture and kill is when the administration or anybody really can get wind that a story is coming and they kill it by some way, shape.
You think that happened?
I don't think that happened yet. I'm just concerned it could happen, because what are we talking about? Look who owns that outlet. And what is that family? Where do they stand on that?
Well, I got 5 other people I could give the story to.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's either way, it's going to come out because they just seem to have more, but they are not the only outlet who contacted me on it. So, CNN did too. I'll just tell you right now, CNN did. And they.
I think there's a White House source for it too. To be honest with you.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. Mark, what's it like to be free?
I'm tanner and more jacked than I was. I don't know. I sleep well. Enjoying the beach. Did I tell you I got a new studio? It's not green screen.
Yeah.
Look,
I know. I don't know about that.
On the wall. Like, look, I got a new logo. People are biased. The polls shouldn't be. Did my B camera die? No, it's there. You see? And that logo. my wife.
So in other words,
So we're gonna have fun on YouTube. I'm gonna make a lot more videos. One of the videos
people wanted to know when you were going to stream. I told them all, yeah, just on YouTube, but they wanted to know when you were going to stream.
I'm going to be a little bit more relaxed and not do as much of a show. I'll probably do a stream a week just to talk to people, but I'm going to put out more bespoke videos. My first one, and I don't know if I ever showed you these numbers, but part of the behind the scenes is that it was very tough to get honest polling, specifically about Iran.
Yeah,
and we did a set. And we got it to the White House, and I know it was being used almost successfully to prevent the strike. And again, I wanted to prevent the strike because I thought it was a retarded misdirection of Trump's efforts and would destroy his political capital. But the important part is I'm going to do the video covering how important framing the question is and how many people on the right have done this in an insidious manner when talking about a topic that involves the death of people. And the death also of a movement, right? So this question, would you approve or disapprove of the U.S. using its military to help overthrow the Ayatollah of Iran? And that, there's no context. It's just the question, right? And it's like, there's actually even an aspect of success in there. It's like, we are going to overthrow, not try. Like, we didn't say try.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, actually. Yeah.
17% strong approve. 21% somewhat. So it's not even at 40%. Like, this is not a positive sentiment. And even among Republicans, it was like 57%. But then you saw these people, these Republican pollsters, not independent pollsters.
Nope.
Who, once we got into the strike period, will go out and say questions like, Trump has ordered the military to end Iran's nuclear program and take out the Ayatollah regime. Do you support or oppose the Iran attack? And so it's like, what's not to love? Of course, I'm going to support that. We're going to get rid of the nasty Ayatollah, and we're not going to have nuclear weapons anymore. Trump told me that, right? And then you get a number in the 50s. It's like 50 to 30 couple, right? And so you take something that might be underwater 20 points, and all of a sudden it's up 10, 15 points, and the president sees it, and how they report it is just that 56% of America supports striking Iran. Well, it's like, no, they were baited with a very poorly framed question that was out of context. And there was a race for people doing snap polling to go into the field and get the most egregiously positive thing so that Trump could put it on his Truth Social. Everybody could get fluffed and they could all have a great time blowing up brown people. And it's disgusting. And, I'm glad I wasn't kind of a part of it.
My personal favorite, Mark. Since the Iranians refused to negotiate anymore, when that wasn't even happening. Do you remember that one? That was a good one. And they were getting torn up in their own Twitter replies. It was just the average person was like, this is not a legitimate poll. And yet Fox News would run it. It would get blasted on Trump's Truth Social. And like you said, unfortunately, then 200 little girls would get blown to smithereens. It's not funny at all. But it gets you PAC money. You know what you get in exchange for that. And again, we don't want to say too much, but in exchange for doing that, folks, you get PAC money. You're going to have money from a PAC directed to you to do some bullshit that sounds like it's something it's not. And you basically just get to pocket it because you're not really expected to do anything of value. And so that's almost 100%. I love you. That's almost 100% profit right there, because they're not really going to do a legitimate survey. Guys, just be patient. I told you to be patient with Mark. I'd break him out eventually. Be patient. You're going to get the whole story. It's going to happen. And that's what I never understood. What do you expect your end game here. And the truth is, a lot of these people aren't playing the long game. Like you and I are trying to play the long game with our credibility and being honest. A lot of these other people just want a golden parachute and they want out. And that's it.
Well, everybody who's not out there bloviating doesn't really care about their credibility. That's what it is. You find your nut and then you like hide for the winter and then come back out and maybe someday there will be nuts again. Like that's the game, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. I put some of this up. I responded to some of you there on locals. What is the odds? Yeah, I think that probably, let me just put it this way. I think probably anyone over 70 in the Republican Congress is Rhino. So it's like 100%. Now, how many of the bad eggs are over 70? I don't have an exact number for you, but I can actually figure that out. But the number one question, honestly, is will Mark multi-stream on Rumble's local and other places, and what time will you do it?
So I still haven't figured that out. Again, I'm recommitting to putting out content, but it's mostly I'm going to focus on putting out higher quality explainer videos. And I will do streams, but they're going to be less of like a podcast style show and more of like, hey, let's hang out and talk about this topic. I think I'm going to actually do memberships and membership streams. Maybe we'll build some polls, but it's not going to be as much. Like it'll probably be once a week and it's all going to be on YouTube, and I'll probably put it up on Twitter too. But quite frankly, guys, I'm getting tired of Rumble. I'm getting tired of Twitter. And so I'll probably be pushing everybody and asking everybody to come to YouTube. And it's like they've never really censored me about anything. The censorship is better than it's ever been. They help monetize the best. And when everybody's in one place, it's an easier chat experience. We have a cooler hangout. So that's probably what's going to happen. And we'll see though, but it's going to happen. Like, look, I got my studio set up. I got stuff on the shelves. I got these lights. I got 4 independently controllable Wi-Fi lights and my key lights.
Good, bro.
My key lights on like a remote and stuff.
It looks good, bro. I wonder if I could turn. Laura will probably kill me, but we're changing the setup here. People can't see it yet, but I wanted a more hangout feel. So the half stacks for the guitars and the guitars are going to be back in. There is I forgot what Laura calls them. There's a name for these kinds of couches. I wish I didn't waste so much money on furniture. Like these couches were super comfortable and I could have honestly put them in like regular rooms. But instead, there's going to be like a hangout couch. And then this is an up or down desk. And we're just going to slide it in to where like the chase part is. So I can kind of just sit there and then they can see screens and there'll be 2 camera angles. I think Laura's getting less shy, so you'll be able to see her do her producer thing if she lets me hit that camera. We'll see, which she will hit herself, honestly, So like, she's getting less shy, So we'll see. It's not even a shyness. It's just that she doesn't like when we go to Virginia. Like I told you, I was bitching to you about it when I was in Virginia Beach. Like, bro, I'm there to watch my daughter dance. Like, I don't mind. I don't want to be a dick, and I don't mind, but having people come up to me and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But my wife wants at least one of us to not be recognizable at any point. And the kids don't like it. My son likes it. He thinks it's cool. My oldest son thinks it's cool. My daughter does not, man. I don't know why. Maybe it's like a teenage phase or something, but she doesn't like it. Like I go to watch her dance and mostly the dads, they're like, oh, your dad's here. Yo, how's JD doing? And it's like, I love that they're so supportive, but my daughter is like, Jesus, I can't even go to my dance competition, like, and she doesn't really like it. So it really was for Laura. It was really always about that. It really was. It wasn't really that a shyness. And it's been like a well-known thing for a long time. Steve Bannon almost beat someone to death with a camera once over it. Yeah, they like widen the shot on a live set, and he was like, "Nobody films Laura. Stupid. Move the camera."
Oh man,
it was great, man. She was so tickled over it too. She was like, "Oh, Steve, thanks." But yeah, I mean, some of this stuff is man, it's dangerous now. It's dangerous, I mean, that's sad commentary on where we are in the country, but it's true. And another thing, again, yeah, I mean, we got this thing going on with the trial with Charlie. Of course, this wasn't the trial yet, but there are always going to be these people who think there was some ominous thing going on. I think that I don't want to use the blame word, but I put a lot of blame on the administration, the FBI and everything, like getting involved the way that they did, and then passing it off to the state, and just thinking that they could say, well, this is a state case, we're not handling it. So we know nothing about those Discord chats, and we know nothing about, like, how does a kid in 6 months go from having no political interest whatsoever to being a furry banger who feels the need to kill Charlie Kirk? Like, that doesn't happen organically, brother. Like, it doesn't. It doesn't happen organically. And we're just told, what? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not in the bullets don't do funny things crowd, because bullets do funny things. But especially bullets we don't know anything about. We don't know what weight that 30-odd round was. We don't know if it was a target round, a hollow point. We don't know anything about it. I mean, they're acting as if like they know definitively what round it was, or it was an exploding microphone, or like, I just feel like all this stupid shit is allowed to take root because the administration didn't deal with it correctly. And you would think,
that's it.
Right. Go ahead.
That's it right there. And I haven't, listen, I watched some of the stuff back then. Right. And it's like, yeah, okay. There's questions, there's things you see and you're like, but you never know, and you're not going to know. And so in my opinion, it's like a waste of effort. But if you ignore everything that's evidence or circumstantial evidence, or there's questions about the scene, the problem is that nobody trusts the FBI. That's the problem. And they didn't trust the FBI under Biden. Normally what happens when the Republicans get in, the Republicans trust the FBI. They don't. And so like we haven't seen a cleaning out process. We haven't seen a swamp draining exercise. And it's like, we haven't seen arrests, but we also haven't seen an accounting of every single FBI that was tracking down a mama bear at a school board meeting either. I told Trump, that was one of the things I told him back in November, which is why at the time people were asking a lot of questions about it.
I did too.
They don't trust the FBI. They don't trust the other agencies. And so in my opinion, just in Joe Kent leaving the administration in a resignation and saying that there was enough evidence to investigate foreign interference in the case, and the fact that we have not objectively cleaned out the FBI, that's all you need to know. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I first of all, I did too. Like the accountability things, just putting Kash Patel, and at that time, Dan Bongino had just left. And I was like, first of all, and that's when I found out, by the way. First of all, you need to call Dan Bongino off because everyone hates him. Right? No amount of fake amplification or Rumble pushing him is going to keep his subscribers from collapsing, which it did. Is going to keep his his reputation, his legacy as being a pedo protector. It's never going to change. Like, you got to call him off because he's basically the personification of what people view as your administration's failure. He's like the personification of it. And that's when I found out, with a wink and a nod from somebody, that was actually directed by somebody around the president. So that was a plan. To send him out and attack the black pillars, the black pillars was a plan. This is how clueless these people are, and I said, basically just putting Kash and him and in charge of an agency, a bureau, whatever, a bureaucracy that the country has no respect for anymore and no trust in anymore. After they framed you, they lied about everything. That's not going to be enough just to put Kash Patel in charge of it. Like, that's never going to be enough. And, they nod along, bro. You know the drill. They nod along. It's like, yeah. And then it's nothing. It's poof. It's nothing. And now we're dealing with, unfortunately, it's like, can we call it fruits? We're dealing with the fruits of that. And then just people instinctively think, and I can't even tell you, during the political violence survey, Republicans were just like, if this was Joe Biden or Barack Obama, and this was, the left actually had effective influencers and people like Charlie, but it was one of them, one of theirs, they would overturn every rock. They would kick every door in. People would be in jail. They would round people up. This would never happen again. And it's us. And it's just like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You know, like
It
what
would have
happened?
been a threat to our democracy.
Of course. And by the way, that probably rightfully would have been a way to characterize it, because Charlie believed so much. I mean, I can't tell you, man, how many times Jack Kosovic and I told him, Charlie, you think this is a good idea? Like, dude, you don't like, because as a pollster, you hear it, you know, and I'm like, I don't know, man. There's some bad people out there. There's some crazy sons of bitches out there, Charlie. And he's like, Rich, if I can't debate on a college campus, then we've already lost. I can't tell you how many times like that rings through my head, because now he's dead. And Jack and I talked about this. Like, well, did we lose? I mean, is that like, was he right? I mean, because that's what he believed.
He was a big influence on the president from everything I hear. And I also forget where, but it might have been from you, that he was a major moderating force about Operation Midnight Hammer.
Major.
So if you think about recent history, it had massive geopolitical implications taken out. Again, I'm not making accusations or getting conspiracy theories. I'm just saying it's like one of the biggest changes that happened to the Trump administration. And one of the reasons we both got, Jack got a trip down there, is because there was a palpable feeling of we lost Charlie's voice, and it was good that we had that, and now it's bad that we don't. And let me also point out something important you brought up. A very important, I think, Dan Bongino will be one of the biggest lessons in authenticity and credibility that we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
Because he was a top, like, #1 podcaster, and everybody loved him. He was the biggest show. People wanted to be on his show. He goes to the FBI, does some stuff, and leaves. And now he's like not even in the. And that's what happens when you come out and have an inauthentic platform. He lost his authenticity. So did Ben Shapiro, right? It's like, hey, Own the Libs became, hey, not America first. And it's like, oh, and then your audience disappears. This should be a lesson to people, is that the internet, the youth are getting incredibly good at spotting inauthenticity. And so the idea,
they are, man.
Trump was an authentic person. He was able to effectively sell America, MAGA platform. I don't really see anybody out there on the political stage that could go and fabricate something MAGA-like that they don't intend to actually execute. Like, it's not going to work. You know, we're in a tough spot. Like, they need some kind of generational leadership from a younger person who's an outsider, who understands economic populism, who's unfortunately probably not part of the administration. I think the mud's going to splatter far. I mean, I love JD, but
say that. Like, the problem with, I think one of the things I'm most, if I can be angry about anything, it's that here we had the first millennial vice presidential nominee becomes the first millennial vice president. Millennials are the biggest group in the electorate as far as voting eligible. They don't vote at the rates yet to be the biggest, but they could in 2028, and we're doomed. We're doomed. You know, like this is what people don't seem to understand. It's not hard math. This is, if they decide they're going to flex their muscles, we're done. And I really did see, you know, that combination of like Charlie and JD being that connection to the right. You had Trump come in and he made being a Republican cool again to younger people. And he had that authenticity. You're right. They are really good at sniffing that out. Old people are not. Sorry, boomers, you're not. Silent Gen, you're not. You've been falling for slop for decades. You have no idea what's authentic and what isn't.
In fact, the Zoomers and Millennials laugh at you.
They laugh
your
at
inauthenticity.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. We laugh at you because of how bad you are at it. Even Gen X is better at it than them, hands down. And I felt like JD was going to be that. You know, Trump was like transitional. JD would be transformative, and then he would be able to pass. Because for everybody who doesn't know, I mean, Charlie was going to be president one day, guys. He was going to be a president one day. And they didn't just kill an influencer. They killed the future governor of Arizona and the future president of the United States. That's what they did. Okay. And he would have lassoed that generation and down and held on to it with a grip that could have lasted like the Reagan coalition, even more, honestly. And now, because of that splashing of the mud, he's going to have to do something significant to differentiate himself, Mark. Like, I know he started on Rogan and that was him doing that, but it's just he's in the worst position I've ever seen anybody in, and I just feel so bad for him because I know how you said it before. He's a true economic populist. His identity is his story, and his identity is the identity of the forgotten man and woman. You know how he was raised. Only he's a success story. But that's why he was so good at articulating to them and articulating the message to them, and so good at and had so much promise, has so much. But he's going to be running in a year that's going to be so, even if he does, which I think he probably will decide to run. I don't know. He hasn't made a decision yet. Of course, he very much is thinking about it. But if it just may be out of his control, and that's fucked up. And I've been telling Laura I'm going to watch my mouth on these shows, and I am, and I'm doing a good job, but that is fucked up. And that's the consequence. Mark Levin, that's what you did to us, dummy. You took away our connection, our bridge to the new world, the new future. You destroyed it for Israel, dummy. That's what you did. And you drove the president to do it with you. Good, congratulations. A guy you never supported, ever. It's unbelievable to me. So if I can say I'm angry at anything, it's that. Like, that is worse than a normal, like, oh, this politician let you down. Like, it's so much more than that, Mark. And then coupled with with Charlie being murdered, and he's irreplaceable. He cannot be replaced. It's like all these people in the wake of his death. Ben Shapiro thought, come on, let's be honest. He thought maybe there's a great way to stop my subscriber slide. I can kind of sneak in there and get some of this voice back, I mean, and I know that's true because within hours, within days, if not hours, or hours, if not days, people were texting me the most egregious shit in the wake of his death. Like, they were concerned about how it was what that would mean for them and their voice and their platform. The donors, the Israel First donors, their immediate concern was not Charlie being killed. It was, what is this going to do to Israel? How's Israel going to navigate out of this? Like, I don't block people. I just wanted to block I don't even answer most of them anymore. I just don't, because they're just disgusting human beings. And I think that probably played a big, I don't want to speak for the man, but I know that Tucker saw a lot of that too. And that may be a big part of where he just, he's gone off and down that. And I don't mean off in a bad way. I mean, he is laser focused on them because I think it just disgusted him. Folks, when somebody, for years, and somebody who has supported Charlie, supported his organization, and got invited to all these events, got invited to all these things, was included in all the conversations, was given deference and respect, and, just cold and callously delivers some bullshit concern about how this is going to hurt Israel. And what is it going to mean without Charlie cheerleading for Israel in the United States anymore, instead of, I'm sorry, your friend has been murdered? You'll never look at that person the same way again. You're like, you're a human piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have no humanity. You're a cold, calculating, raw power, disgusting parasite. And I don't want anything to do with you anymore.
Go Max, Rich. Go Max.
I mean, go Max. It's Charlie, right? That's what he would always say too. Go Max. There it is, Charlie. I went Max for you, bro. I mean,
well, you brought it back to the donor thing, which is the problem for JD, which is that the foreign policy donors probably want Marco Rubio. The big business donors don't want JD Vance because he's an economic populist.
Yep.
And whether a lot of whether he runs or not probably has to do whether he can come up with his own donor base, but he's still fighting the establishment Republican donor base. And there's going to be behind the scenes knife fights. And, those people aren't going to want to give up their entrenched position where they've invested a lot of capital into the people that are here. And so if he's going to succeed, and it's a big if, because we had him winning matchups a year ago. You told me you had losing matchups recently.
He did in that last poll. He did erase Gavin Newsom's lead, but he still was down a little. But he raced like Gavin was clobbering him, bro, in the height of the Iran war.
Oh.
You know, clobbering him. And I'm like, oh my god, 8 points, 6 points. I'm like, oh God Almighty. Even AOC.
Yeah. Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
So his only chance is to come up with some very intelligent strategy, overcome that barrier. And I don't even know what to recommend. I mean, obviously it's go to the people, go around the establishment structures, go max, call out the people. But it's like at the end of the day, the establishment doesn't want enemies, and it's after people hard. So
They'll come after you for doing it. Yeah, I think there's going to be an opportunity. The problem is the timing, because if you do it after the midterms and it's a bloodbath, then you're going to look like an opportunist, and not like you're just reacting to the public whim. Now Marco Rubio can get away with that because Marco Rubio is a chameleon who will do whatever the donor class wants. So him coming out earlier today and saying, well, obviously we can't be the world's police for forever. That's textbook Marco Rubio. The guy is talking about taking Cuba, taking Greenland, taking Iran, taking Turkey, taking this, taking that. And then the next day he's talking about not being the world's police. Like, this is, guys, if you're from Florida, Marco Rubio is a chameleon. He has no core. All right. He'll do what he's got to do. And that's it. And that's what I never liked about the guy. I never liked, even when he first ran for Senate. I got a great story I'll tell another time, but I knew it that very moment. This guy has no real core. He doesn't believe in the Tea Party movement. He was here to get their votes. He didn't even think they were worth talking to. Like, it was disgusting. Only when he was told that you can't win without that Charlie Crist is going to beat you because Charlie Crist is giving them attention. That's the reason he pivoted back to, caring. He wouldn't even fill out their questionnaire at this event. It was like so pathetic and rank privilege. It was gross, but that's Marco. I mean, that's who he is. And he'll fake being MAGA 1 minute, and the next minute he'll be ready to conquer half the known world. Like, this guy it is what it is. But the donors will let him get away with it because they know he's really one of them. You know what I mean? Or he wants to be. He's a wannabe elite. And and in the case of Vance, he's not. And he's not going to be, or at least I don't want to speak and say, like Alex, I'll take Alex Jones's position. I can't tell you that he's going to be perfect and he's not going to let you down. But I can tell you that he's the best person right now not to let you down. And
he doesn't want to let you down.
He doesn't want to let you down. Yeah. Right. I mean, I've seen the guy stay up for 72 hours trying to do the right thing. Like, I mean, when he has other things that, you would rather do, you would rather do it. All right. Well, yeah, let me, I guess it's 9:45. I'm going to I don't want a little one going to bed. Yeah. But,
tell for 2 hours, huh?
Yeah, man. Tell people where they can follow you and your stuff, and how the deal, you'll be back.
Yeah, this is great. I love it. It feels good to be back. Appreciate you holding down the fort and sending me all of those hilarious ransom funds that I got to laugh out of those every time.
I know you did, man. I was trying to keep your spirits up,
Yes. So all the accounts are basically the same. They're all just branded Honest Poll now. So I'm at Honest Pollster on Twitter. Our new account is at Honest Poll Co. So that'll be the company account. And we're going to start doing a national tracking poll this week. And I hope to get it back at the end of next week. But we're going to take our time and make sure we probably going to tweak the methodology a little bit. And we're going to come up with a new stack behind the scenes. So this stuff takes time. But the goal is going to be continuously to put out public sentiment work, represent the voters, to be the referee. And hopefully we'll have multiple stories a week and get to a place where we're polling 2 times a month. And then on YouTube, it's the Rasmussen account, but it's at Honest Poll now. So
it has changed.
Has changed.
You'll be redirected. Yeah. Well, look, you did it. I'll leave it at that. But a lot
of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
Build our channel. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, man, I really appreciate you coming on, here for the first time since your release. And I'm glad to have you back. It was honestly devastating to lose you in the public space for a while because, I got you, in the beginning when I started this, man, I started this alone. Like, I was like the lone voice and I just got pounded by the left constantly because they were like, you hated having a a pollster that wasn't in the club, like out there talking. But then it got real bad when it was like then the right started doing the same thing. So it was really good to have you, around. And I guess I just didn't want it to go back to the way it was. It sucked for the time being, but it's really good to have you back, man. And I'm glad I'm glad you're doing this because it needs to be done. The more the better, and wish you all the success in the world.
Thanks so much. We're going to be doing cool stuff. Oh, and I don't know if you heard, I got a book deal.
Oh yeah, I did hear, but tell everybody else.
Yeah, well, I don't want to give too much away because it's coming out a long time from now. But we're going to be going into socialism versus capitalism and defining the term boomer capitalism and how it destroyed America. That'll be first.
Right along. See, you guys seeing a common theme here? We have got to fix this because look, the change is going to come. So if we're not prepared for it, I mean, not Mark and I aren't going to be surprised. You listeners aren't going to be surprised, but a lot of people are. And who's not though, Mark? The Democrats. They won't be. And they understand what you're talking about right now, and they understand that frankly, there's not. They're waiting for the clock to run out. That's what they're doing.
And the power of youth. So they're on the leading edge of this thing.
Yep.
And they have their limitations, but they're going to take advantage of the dynamic, and the Republicans are.
Well, and just real quick, Laura, before, I guess she was probably on a little bit of a delay at first because she had to go and do something, but she laughed at the Bannon story because she remembered it. And then also she just messaged me. She wanted to let you know it was good to see you this weekend. It was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was
Hopefully do it again soon.
Yeah. Probably not a Bedminster, but
probably not, but we'll see. You never know, man. Never say never. You never know. Because a year ago, I wouldn't have said we would have done that, so I would have thought we were probably going to be banned from all those properties. Next time, bring the wifey. Yeah. I'm sure they'll get along marvelously.
Yeah, I'll talk her into it. Great to be here, Rich. Thanks again.
All the best, brother. Have a good night. Mark Mitchell, everybody, go follow him on X if you don't already. All right, at Honest Pollster, and go check out, of course, follow the polling accounts up too. If you go to my followers, you'll see it's like the last one I just followed, so it's right there, super easy to find. I did notice somebody just contributed to the Florida poll. I don't know what those other guys are doing, but yeah, if you want us to poll Florida, the link is in the description of the Public Polling Project. The Signal poll came out though; it had fish back in the double digits. I don't know how they're going to ignore that since Signal has a lot of contracts with the NRCC and the NRSC. We'll see. But curious to see. The bottom line is Signal still had what? Trump +4, something like that. Nobody had Trump +13. We did. End of story. And nobody had Rick Scott winning by roughly 70,000 votes. We did. End of story. Nobody had DeSantis. Well, that's not true. One other poll did have 18 right. 2020, Trump +3. Nobody but me. So like it does matter, that certain people poll certain states. I mean, Florida's my jam. I love polling Florida. It's probably the most fun state to poll for me anyway. But yeah, so if you can, and share it too. Sharing is enormously helpful. The bigger, obviously, the more eyes see it, the easier it is and the less burden it is on the same people who do it over and over and over again. We'll also have a benchmark poll at the end of the month. We'll see where we're at. We're going to tweak how we poll the peace deal because obviously that peace deal is not on the table unless it is on the table again at that point. But if it's not, we'll have to say, there was a previous peace deal. Unfortunately, it collapsed, whatever, and hostilities resumed. We'll say something like that. As of now, which do you prefer? Which would you support? Would you support or oppose the president re-engaging the Iranians to negotiate a peace deal? Which do you prefer would be another way. We'll probably ask both because it'll give us a better understanding. Of course, the generic ballot, right track, wrong track. It may be time for economic confidence again. I got to check that out. Top issues, we'll see. And of course, burn it down. If you did not pre-order, burn it down. Pre-order, burn it down. It's coming out. It'll be out soon. It's already July 20th. So don't forget to pre-order it. Again, I do know because I see a lot of you in the thing. I am working on the audiobook as fast as I can. I will get an audio version of it. But guess what, guys? I can't sign an audio version. By the way, I don't know if Laura's listening, but if she is, I mean, Laura, that kid was super cute. You know, I had somebody come up and ask, he wants to be a pollster when he grows up. And he's a little man and a big fan. And it was awesome. And I signed his hat for him. He asked me to sign his hat. It was the cutest thing in the world. So I can't sign audiobooks. I can't sign, but, you know, can't sign ethereal objects. So, you know, try if you can to buy the paperback. That's all great. And of course, it'll be out in Barnes & Nobles too, and Books A Million and stuff like that. But right now, it's just available for pre-order on Amazon. Yeah, I mean, it is the book. And that it is the book that is going to, like, the conversation in the book will determine the future of politics in this country. And either people understand that, which it's stunning to me. So few people really do. You know who did? Charlie. It's stunning to me that I got to even write a book about this. I would have thought that this was rather self-evident, but apparently it's not. What else? What else am I forgetting? 1776 Law Center. If you planned on coming to the conference on August 1st and 2nd, Barnes said there are a few tickets left. At its course, 1776lawcenter.com. I can't wait for this. I mean, I'm going to have some time to rest in between traveling. Like I said, Laura and I are going to drive again, so I'll probably wind up leaving early Friday morning. And then I'll see you Saturday. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have a good time. I don't think I'm missing anything else. Oh, I'll retweet it. We went right through Gates's interview. I was on Matt Gaetz tonight, but we went right through it. We broadcasted right through it. I'll retweet it, and then we will you know, put it up on Locals. We usually do that with Gaetz. So they'll give us like the master clip and we'll put it up. But all right. Other than that, I will see you guys tomorrow. All right. It is 10 o'clock almost. So I'm going to let you go enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks for watching. As always, don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and share them, and follow, you know, Barnes, sportspicks.locals.com, sportspicks.locals.com. I'm right there on Locals, peoplesplanet.locals.com. Barnes just got a Substack too, by the way, which is the great. I put that article link in the comments before. Go read that about that polling and gammon and all that is really, really incredible stuff with links that you can go check out. Other than that, coming in on the gram, which I'm slowly but surely building a following on, at peoples_pundit, just like on X, is on the gram. And on Truth and on Getter, there's no underscore, at People's Pundit. So with that, I promise now I'm going to let you enjoy your night. Thanks for watching What Are the Odds with Barnes and Baris. I'll see you guys tomorrow.